she said. It didn't mean anything. I am not ready for your life. After I caught her cheating, I stayed quiet, pretending to believe her tears. But when she saw the keys waiting on the desk at closing, the look on her face changed everything. Every relationship has that one person on the outside who just seems to be waiting for it to fail. For me, that person was my girlfriend's coworker. I just found out my girlfriend Taylor of 3 years has been lying to my face for weeks, and I am questioning everything. Let me give you the context. I am an architect. Taylor's finishing her marketing degree while doing a competitive internship program. We have been planning our future together. I was literally buying us a house in the suburbs. I have been supporting her financially through school because I wanted to help her dreams come true. We had this tradition of Wednesday date nights. Sometimes fancy dinners, sometimes pizza and Netflix, but it was our time. We'd talk about the house we wanted, kids' names, travel plans. She would curl up next to me scrolling through Zillow saying, "This is our home." Enzo, 3 months ago, I found the perfect 1920s Craftsman with original hardwood floors. Taylor fell in love with it immediately. We drove by it 3 times that week just to look at it again. Then my dad had a massive heart attack. I flew to Nevada immediately for his emergency surgery. Taylor was incredible the first few days, staying on the phone while I sat in hospital waiting rooms, sending care packages. But something shifted after week 1. Phone calls got shorter. Texts went from thinking of you constantly to just heart emojis. Video chats always had excuses: studying, work projects, study groups. I figured she was giving me space to deal with family stuff. By week 3, I felt completely disconnected from her. I needed my girlfriend's support, but every time I reached out, she felt distant. Going through the motions, but her heart wasn't in it. I came home 2 weeks ago expecting to reconnect. I suggested restarting our Wednesday date nights, because I had missed that routine. She canceled. Last-minute text. "Sorry, babe. Meeting old high school friends tonight." Rain check. Here is the thing. Taylor almost never hangs out with high school people. In 3 years, she had mentioned maybe 2 people from back then, so it struck me as weird. That night, she didn't come home. I waited until 1 a.m., then tried calling, straight to voicemail. By 2 a.m. I was genuinely worried about her safety. I checked her location on Find My Friends. We had shared locations for practical reasons years ago. She was in this sketchy neighborhood across town that I had never heard of. She came home at 3:30 a.m., overly cheerful, talking too fast, avoiding eye contact. When I asked about her night, she said, "Great. So good to catch up with everyone." "Where did you guys go?" I asked. "That bar downtown. You know, the one with good wings." 15 minutes later, mentioning maybe checking out that wing place, she said, "What? Oh no, we didn't go there. We went to that other place near Sarah's apartment." The next day, talking to her mom, she mentioned being exhausted from working so late at the office, 3 different stories in 24 hours. I sat her down that evening and gently asked what was going on. I said I was confused about the timeline, and just wanted to understand. She completely broke down, full waterworks, hyperventilating. Between sobs, she admitted she had been flirting with a coworker for weeks. His name is Jake, he is in her internship program, and they had gone out with work people that night. "It didn't mean anything," she kept saying. "You were gone and I was lonely and he was just there." She said she had deleted their text messages because she knew it was wrong. But here is what broke me. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I am just not ready for your life, Enzo. The house, the commitment. It is all too much too fast. Sometimes I feel like I am suffocating." This is the same woman who spent hours planning our future, who got excited about paint colors, who said I made her feel safe and loved. "What do you mean you are not ready?" I asked. "We have been together 3 years. You helped pick out this house." She just cried harder, and said she didn't know what she wanted anymore. The house closing is scheduled for next week. I have put down earnest money, gone through inspections, everything. My realtor keeps asking about timeline. My mom's texting about visiting our new place, and my girlfriend just told me she is not ready for the life we have been building together, after emotionally cheating while I was caring for my sick father. I keep going back and forth. Is flirting really cheating? Can you come back from this betrayal? Am I naive for considering working through this? Part of me wonders if she is just scared and acting out. Part of me wonders if she has been lying about wanting our future longer than I realize. I love her, but I feel like I don't know who she is anymore. Cancel the house and take the financial hit. Try to work through this. Cut my losses. I am supposed to close Friday, and I am completely lost. Girlfriend of 3 years admitted to flirting with coworker and lying about where she was, then said she is not ready for our planned future. House closing next week, and I don't know if I should save the relationship or accept it is over. Update 1. I promise to update you all. I wish I had listened to those who said just run. After my post blew up, I spent 3 days thinking hard about what I wanted. I read every comment. General consensus was clear. Relationship was already over. I just hadn't accepted it. But love makes you stupid. Really stupid. I decided on one final conversation to see if anything was salvageable. I went in prepared to end things, but, well, you will see. I sat Taylor down Wednesday evening and explained I felt completely betrayed, not just by the emotional affair, but by her admission she had been feeling suffocated without ever talking to me. Taylor went into full damage control. Oscar, worthy performance. Tears, apologies. The whole I almost lost the best thing in my life speech. She said she had been confused and scared, but seeing how hurt I was made her realize what she actually wanted. I want you, she kept saying. I want us, the house, the future, all of it. I was just being an idiot because I was scared of growing up. She begged me not to throw away 3 years over one stupid mistake. Said her feelings for Jake were just a fear response to commitment, not real attraction. Here's my first mistake. I started believing her. She seemed genuinely remorseful, saying all the right things about betraying my trust and understanding why I was hurt. She brought up couples therapy on her own, said she wanted to do the work. So like an absolute idiot, I gave her one chance, but I wasn't naive about it. I laid out non-negotiable conditions like complete phone and social media transparency next, block Jake everywhere, only necessary work contact then, start couples therapy immediately, plus individual therapy for her commitment issues, no more lies, period, and full truth about everything that happened with Jake. She agreed immediately, said she was grateful for the chance to prove herself. That night, she showed me her phone and let me watch while she blocked Jake on Instagram. Snapchat, deleted his number. Their text thread before deletion looked like mostly harmless flirting, definitely inappropriate. But nothing super explicit. For 2 weeks, things seemed better, more attentive, more affectionate, constantly reassuring me she had made a mistake. We had our first couples session and she was actively engaged, talking about commitment issues. She had started individual therapy twice a week. I thought maybe we could get past this. Maybe this rough patch would make us stronger. Then last Tuesday happened, working from home. My laptop died mid-project. Taylor's MacBook was on the kitchen counter, so I asked to borrow it. She said sure, no problem. Instagram was already logged in, but not her main account. Some account I had never seen with a different username. No profile picture. Only 30 followers. My stomach dropped because I knew. I fucking knew. Jake's account was first in her following list. Recent activity showed she had liked his photos, including one from the day before. Secret Instagram, where she could follow people without it showing on her main account. Jake wasn't the only concerning follow. Several guys from work. Random dudes clearly sliding into DMs based on message notifications. Turns out they had been texting again after our first conversation. Just through this hidden platform. When she got home, I confronted her. Showed her the laptop with the account up. She tried to gaslight me. That is just an old account I forgot about. Taylor, you liked his photo yesterday. That must have been an accident. Instagram does weird things. There are message notifications from 3 different guys. I have no idea. Maybe spam, on and on. Every piece of evidence, she had bullshit explanations. She even started crying, and accused me of looking for reasons not to trust her and being paranoid. But here is what got me. She never apologized for having the secret account, never acknowledged that hidden social media to interact with other men might be a problem. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about comments telling me people who cheat once will cheat again. Someone who lies about big things definitely lies about small things. I realized Taylor hasn't changed at all. She just got better at hiding things. House closes in 1 week. My realtor's been calling about move-in dates. My parents are planning a visit. I haven't told Taylor my thoughts yet, but I am pretty sure this relationship is over. Really over this time. Part of me is relieved to have proof I am not crazy. Part of me is devastated that my future wife is apparently capable of looking me in the eye and lying without blinking. You know what though? I am still buying that house. It is beautiful. I love everything about it. Just because she is a liar doesn't mean I should give up my dreams. Time to plan a future that doesn't include someone who thinks commitment is optional when it gets inconvenient. Am I being too harsh, or is this the wake-up call I needed? Update 2. I don't know how to start this because I am still processing everything from the last 2 weeks. But I promised updates. And honestly, writing this is the only thing keeping me sane. After my last post, many of you said I needed to stop taking Taylor's word and get truth from other sources. You were right. I was still being too trusting. I reached out to Madison, one of Taylor's colleagues I would met at work events. She is a straightforward woman in her late 20s who works as senior coordinator in the same marketing internship program where Taylor and Jake were placed. Always got good vibes from her, genuine, not into office drama. I texted asking if she wanted coffee because I needed an outside perspective on stuff happening with Taylor. She agreed, but seemed hesitant. We met downtown last Thursday. I was nervous as hell because part of me didn't want to know what she would tell me. Madison, I need you to be completely honest, I said. How much do you know about what has been going on between Taylor and Jake? The look on her face told me everything. She got this expression like someone asked her to admit to a crime. Enzo. She started, then stopped. I really don't want to get in the middle. I am not asking you to get in the middle. I just need to know what actually happened, because Taylor keeps giving me different versions. Madison stirred her latte for 30 seconds without speaking. Finally, what has Taylor told you? I explained the flirting story. Group hangout, deleted texts. As I talked, Madison looked more uncomfortable. That is, not exactly what happened, she finally said. My heart started pounding. What do you mean, Enzo? I don't know how to tell you this, but they didn't just flirt. And it wasn't just that one night. What she told me made me physically sick. Taylor and Jake have been hooking up for almost 2 months. Started right after I left for Nevada. Madison said everyone in the office knew they weren't subtle. As senior coordinator overseeing the intern program, she had noticed the unprofessional behavior and considered talking to HR. That night Taylor said she was with high school friends. She was at Jake's apartment. Alone, Madison knew because Jake bragged about it to other guys at work the next day. But here is what broke me. They hooked up at the company Christmas party in December. while I was sitting in a hospital room watching my father recover from emergency heart surgery. Madison said she watched them making out by the bar for 20 minutes. Everyone saw it. Enzo. Some people thought they were already dating. All those phone calls while I was in Nevada, when Taylor seemed distant. She was probably with him. All those study sessions, and working late, probably with him. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked. Madison looked genuinely sorry. Most people don't really know you. And those who do, we assumed you knew. Taylor never mentioned having a boyfriend at work, ever. Some people thought you had broken up. That hit like a truck. For 2 months, Taylor pretended to be single while living with me and planning our future. Madison also said Jake has a reputation for going after women in relationships. He had pulled similar stunts with 2 previous interns. Taylor knew this because Madison warned all new interns about maintaining professional boundaries during orientation. I thanked Madison and drove home in complete daze. Taylor was making dinner like nothing happened. Smiled and kissed me hello, asked about my day. I realized I was living with a complete stranger. That night, after dinner, I laid out everything Madison told me. Didn't accuse or get angry, just calmly stated facts and asked Taylor to respond. She tried denying it, said Madison was jealous and making things up. But when I pressed on specific details, her story fell apart. Finally, she broke down completely, hyperventilating, ugly crying. Between sobs, she admitted she had been seeing Jake since the week after I left for Nevada. It started as just talking, she said. I was lonely and scared, and he was just there. But then one thing led to another and I couldn't stop. She had been planning to end things with Jake and come clean, but didn't know how. Kept saying she loved me and didn't want to lose me, but felt trapped by our life. I felt like I was suffocating. Enzo, the house, the plans, feeling like I had to be this perfect girlfriend. Being with Jake made me feel free again. I asked what pressure she meant. I had never pressured her into anything. That is just it, she said. You are so good at everything. You have your career figured out. You are financially stable. Being with you made me realize how much I don't have my shit together, and instead of working on myself, I ran away. She had been feeling like this for months, but didn't know how to talk to me. Said Jake represented this fantasy where she could be young and irresponsible. The conversation went on for hours. She admitted lying about dozens of things. Work events that were dates with Jake. Study sessions that were hookups. She had been skipping individual therapy to see him, while still attending our couples sessions to keep up appearances. By the end, I realized this wasn't just about cheating. This was about Taylor fundamentally not wanting the life we had built together, but being too scared to be honest. She begged for another chance, said she would end things with Jake permanently and commit to real work this time. I could barely look at her. I slept in the guest room thinking about what the hell I was supposed to do. House closing is tomorrow. I have decided to go through with it, but obviously, Taylor will not be moving in. I think we are done. Really done this time. I cannot build a life with someone who sees commitment as a burden and honesty as optional. The worst part is I still love her, but I am realizing loving someone isn't enough if they are not capable of loving you back the way you need. Update 3. Hey Reddit. It has been a while since my last update, and many of you have asked for final wrap-up. I wanted to wait until I had real perspective, and honestly, it has taken 6 months to get where I can talk about this without wanting to throw up. So here is what happened after my last post, and where I am now. Day after my last update, I had the conversation I had been dreading. I sat Taylor down and told her exactly what Madison shared timeline, Jake's reputation, everything. She didn't even try denying it this time, just cried, and said she never meant for things to go this far. I had rehearsed what I wanted to say. I cannot build a home on a foundation of lies, Taylor. And I cannot love someone who doesn't actually want the life we are building together. She asked if there was any way we could work through it, said she would do anything to earn my trust back. But here is the thing: I realized I didn't want her to earn it back. The person who could lie to my face for months while I was caring for my sick father isn't someone I want to share my life with. This isn't about forgiveness, I told her. This is about accepting we want completely different things. You said you felt suffocated by our future, and I heard you. I need someone who is excited about building that future with me. She moved out that weekend. I closed Friday as planned, signed papers by myself, got keys, spent that first night on the empty living room floor just processing. It felt amazing. Not the breakup that sucked, but being in this space that was completely mine, with no lies or secrets. First time I had felt truly peaceful in months. 3 weeks later, I started seeing Dr. William, a therapist specializing in relationship trauma. Best decision I have made in years. I had done couples therapy with Taylor, but this individual work was different, focused entirely on my patterns. Turns out I had serious problems trying to fix people and ignoring red flags because I wanted to believe the best in everyone. Dr. William helped me understand my desire to support Taylor had crossed into enabling. You cannot love someone into being ready for commitment, she told me. When you try, you lose yourself in the process. Key breakthrough came in month 3. Dr. William asked me to describe the difference between how I felt walking into my house versus how I had felt coming home when Taylor lived there. With Taylor, I was always wondering what mood she would be in, what story she would tell me about her day, whether she was being honest, I said. Now I just come home. It is peaceful. That is when it clicked. Real love shouldn't make you constantly question reality. Through Madison, who has become a good friend, I heard bits about how things played out for Taylor and Jake. They made it official 2 months after we broke up. Madison said Taylor seemed really happy, initially posting couple photos, talking about feeling free. But novelty wore off quickly. Jake is exactly who Madison said, guy who likes the chase more than actual relationship. 4 months in, Madison heard through office grapevine he was flirting with someone new. By Christmas, they had broken up. Madison said Taylor seemed devastated, especially realizing Jake used the same playbook on her he had used on previous other women. The irony wasn't lost on me. She threw away 3 years of genuine partnership for a guy who was never going to give her the security she ultimately wanted. Started dating again 4 months ago. Nothing serious initially, just coffee dates, getting comfortable putting myself out there. But last month, I met Rebecca. She is a landscape architect who owns her own firm. When I mentioned wanting to renovate my backyard, she got excited and started sketching ideas on a napkin. Here is what is different. Everything feels easy. Natural. She has never made me feel like my stability is too much. If anything, she appreciates it because she is building a life she is proud of too. Last week at dinner, she said something that stuck. I love that you know what you want. Enzo, makes me feel safe to want things with you. Completely different energy from someone who saw my life plans as pressure to escape. Dr. William helped me identify specific patterns I needed to change. Trust my gut immediately. When something feels off, I address it directly, instead of making excuses. With Rebecca, when she was late to our 3rd date, I simply asked if everything was okay instead of creating stories in my head. Stop over. Giving early in relationships. I used to offer to pay for everything. Help with every problem. Now I let people contribute equally and show me they are invested too. Communicate boundaries clearly. I told Rebecca up front that honesty is non-negotiable for me, and why. She appreciated the directness. Notice when I am trying to fix someone, if I find myself making excuses for someone's behavior, or thinking they will change when they are more comfortable, that is a red flag. 6 months later, I am genuinely happy, not just healing or getting by, actually excited about my life. The house is perfect. Home office setup, exactly how I want it. Taking on more creative projects at work, because I am not constantly stressed about relationship drama. Milo, my rescue pit bull, is the best roommate ever. Most importantly, I trust myself again, trust my instincts, my judgment, my ability to recognize when someone is right for me. Do I regret the 3 years with Taylor? Not entirely. We had good times, and the experience taught me what I need in a partner. But I am grateful every day I found out who she really was before marriage or kids. To anyone going through similar, if you are constantly convincing your partner to want the same things you want, that is not love. That is forcing compatibility that doesn't exist. The right person will be excited about building a life together. They will not make your dreams feel like burdens they have to tolerate. Don't ignore red flags because you are in love. Don't make excuses for someone who lies to you, and definitely don't sacrifice your peace for someone who treats commitment like it is negotiable. You deserve someone who chooses you every day, not someone with one foot out the door. This will be my last update, unless something major happens. Thank you to everyone who followed along and supported me through this mess. You helped a confused guy realize he deserved better than someone who treated love like a part. Time job. Life is good. Reddit. Really good. She gave me an ultimatum. It's me or the dog. I looked at my dog, then back at her and said, I understand. Then I packed her bags and left them on the porch. Her shock when she realized I wasn't joking. I, 31 male, am sitting here with my dog Bruno sleeping at my feet, finally able to process what happened last week. Been with Jasmine, 29, for 2 years. She moved into my house 6 months ago. My house that I bought 3 years before we met. My house where Bruno, my 5-year-old German Shepherd mix, has lived since he was 8 weeks old. Jasmine knew about Bruno from day one. Hell, my dating profile literally said, Dog Dad, if that's a problem, swipe left. First date, I showed her photos. Third date, she met him. She said he was adorable. But once she moved in, things changed. He sheds too much. He's a dog. He takes up too much space on the couch. It's his couch too. Why does he need to sleep in the bedroom? He slept there for 5 years. I tried compromising, got a Roomba for the hair, bought a bigger couch, set up a nice dog bed in the bedroom so he wasn't on our bed. Nothing was enough. Last Tuesday, I came home from work to find Bruno locked in the laundry room. He was shaking. My boy doesn't shake. He's been through thunderstorms, fireworks, even that time a car backfired right next to us. But 6 hours locked in a dark laundry room? That did it. Why was Bruno locked up? He was annoying me while I worked from home. Jasmine, he has separation anxiety. You know this. That's why I set up his bed in the office. Well, I moved the bed. It was ugly. Wednesday she started her campaign. Showed me apartments. Look how nice these are, and they don't allow pets. Thursday she sent me articles about how dogs carry diseases. My dog who gets monthly baths and regular vet checkups. Friday morning was the ultimatum. I was making breakfast, Bruno waiting patiently for his morning scrambled egg. Yes, I make my dog an egg every morning, sue me. Jasmine walked in, saw me giving Bruno his egg, and lost it. This is ridiculous. You care more about that mutt than me. That's not true. It is. I'm done with this. It's me or the dog, Aiden. Choose. I looked at Bruno. He tilted his head the way he does when he's trying to understand human nonsense. Then I looked back at Jasmine. I understand, I said. She smiled. Good. I'll start looking for rescue. No, I mean I understand what you're asking, and I've made my choice. Went upstairs, got her suitcases from the closet, started packing her stuff. She followed me, confused at first, then angry. What are you doing? Helping you pack? What? You gave me an ultimatum. I chose. Bruno's been with me through my dad's death, my job loss during COVID, my recovery from surgery. He's never once made me choose between him and something I love. You're seriously choosing a dog over me? I'm choosing loyalty over manipulation. She tried to stop me packing. Started crying. Not sad tears, angry tears. You can't kick me out. I live here. You're not on the lease. You don't pay rent. You're a guest who's worn out their welcome. Took me 2 hours to pack everything. She screamed the entire time. Called me every name in the book. Threatened to call the cops for packing her stuff. Threatened to sue me for what? Bruno just stayed in his bed watching, put everything on the porch, locked the door. She pounded on it for 20 minutes before her sister Evelyn came to get her. You'll regret this, she screamed as she left. No one will ever love you like I do. Good, I called back. Because your love comes with conditions. Update 1. The entitlement escalation has been something. Saturday morning, I woke up to 73 texts, ignored them. But around noon, Jasmine's mom, Diane, showed up. This woman who'd met me maybe 3 times. Aiden, you need to fix this. Jasmine's heartbroken. She gave me an ultimatum about my dog. It's just an animal, and she's just an ex-girlfriend. Diane's face went red. She invested 2 years in you. She lived rent-free in my house for 6 months. If anyone invested, it was me. She decorated. She made this house a home. I laughed. Actually laughed. She hung up some leave, laugh, love signs and threw out my comfortable furniture for her aesthetic. That's not making a home. That's marking territory. But here's where it gets interesting. Diane let slip something important. After everything she gave up for you. What did she give up? Diane backpedaled. Nothing, I just meant, no, what did she give up? Turns out, Jasmine had been telling people she'd turned down a job promotion to move in with me. Complete lie. She'd been fired from her previous job for attendance issues, and I'd helped her get a new one through my network. Sunday, Jasmine tried a new approach. Posted on social media that I'd abandoned her for choosing an animal over human love. Tagged all our mutual friends. The photo she used? One of her crying with mascara running. My friend Pete called me. Dude, she's making you look like a monster. She gave me an ultimatum about my dog. Yeah, but the way she's spinning it. Pete, did you know she locked Bruno in the laundry room for 6 hours? What? Started getting messages from people. Some supportive, some not. But then Bruno's vet tech, Amy, commented on Jasmine's post. Interesting. Wasn't it you who called our office asking about accidentally leaving chocolate where a dog could reach it? We have that recorded, too. Jasmine deleted the post within an hour. Monday today, got a letter from a lawyer. Not a good lawyer, mind you. Some ambulance chaser named Gregory, demanding compensation for unlawful eviction and emotional distress. Called my lawyer buddy James. He looked at the letter and laughed. She has no case. She wasn't a tenant. She was a guest. Want me to respond? Please do. But the best part? This afternoon, Evelyn, the sister, texted me. Not to yell, but to apologize. Hey Aiden, I'm sorry about Jasmine. She's always been like this. Did she tell you what happened with her last boyfriend? No? She made him get rid of his cat, then dumped him 3 months later for a guy with a boat. Seriously? Yeah. The cat thing is a pattern. She thinks if she can make someone give up something they love, it proves they love her more. It's sick. Why didn't you warn me? Would you have listened? Plus, she's my sister. But what she did to Bruno, that's too far. Mom told me about the chocolate thing. That's attempted murder in my book. Update 2. The extinction burst hit Tuesday. Jasmine showed up at my work, made it past reception somehow, marched straight to my desk. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please leave. I'll make a scene. Go ahead. Security's already on their way. She started raising her voice about how I ruined her life and traumatized her. My coworkers were staring. Then Bruno's head popped up from under my desk. Yeah, I bring him to work now. Perks of being a senior developer at a dog-friendly company. You brought that thing here? He works here more than you ever worked anywhere. Security arrived. Jasmine tried to claim she was my girlfriend. I showed them the texts where she said we were over. They escorted her out. My boss, Keith, came over after. Ex-drama? Yeah, sorry about that. Is that why Bruno's been coming to work? Partially. Also found out she might have been planning to hurt him. Keith, who has 3 dogs, looked horrified. She's banned from the building. I'll email security her photo. Wednesday, the flying monkeys arrived. Her friends Portia and Fiona showed up at my house, rang the doorbell repeatedly. We know you're in there, I called out through the door, and you know you're trespassing. We just want to talk. About what? How your friend tried to poison my dog? Silence. Then Portia. She didn't actually do it? Oh, so attempted murder is fine as long as you fail? They left after I mentioned I was recording everything for the restraining order. Thursday was quiet. Too quiet. Friday, I found out why. Jasmine had gone nuclear on dating apps. Created a profile saying she was recently traumatized by an abusive ex who chose violence over love. Used photos of us together with my face poorly scratched out. But she made a mistake. She matched with my cousin's husband, Bradley, who was definitely not on dating apps. Turns out, my cousin Rita had created a fake profile to do recon after seeing Jasmine's social media posts. Rita sent me screenshots. Jasmine was telling matches that I had physically thrown her out and that she was homeless because of male violence. She was asking them for money. Actual money. Just until I get back on my feet. I sent everything to James, lawyer friend. He sent Gregory, her lawyer, a cease and desist with screenshots. Suddenly, Gregory didn't want to represent her anymore. But Saturday was the grand finale. Jasmine created a fake animal abuse report, said I was neglecting Bruno. Animal control showed up at my door. The officer looked embarrassed. "Sir, we have to investigate all reports." "I understand, come on in." Bruno was literally wearing a new collar, fresh from grooming, with his vaccination tags visible. His food and water bowls were full. His toy basket was overflowing. The officer petted Bruno. "This might be the most spoiled dog I've ever seen." Is that a memory foam dog bed?" "Two actually. One for the living room, one for the bedroom. And these vet records. Every visit for 5 years, including his dentist cleaning last month." The officer sighed. "False reports are a crime. Want to press charges?" "Yes." Turns out, when you file a false animal abuse report and they can trace it to you, Jasmine used her real name because she's an idiot. It's a misdemeanor with up to 6 months in jail. Final update. The legal aftermath was swift and brutal. Jasmine was charged with filing a false report. She tried to claim she was genuinely concerned, but the prosecutor had the vet text recording about the chocolate, the cease and desist from her dating app scam, and my security footage of Bruno happy and healthy. She took a plea deal, community service, and a fine. But the best part? It goes on her record. Her new job that I helped her get? They fired her when she missed work for court. Diane, her mom, called me begging, "Please drop the charges. She's learned her lesson. The state is pressing charges, not me, and no, she hasn't learned anything. She lost her job. Actions meet consequences, but here's the twist nobody saw coming. Remember Evelyn, the sister? She reached out last week. Aiden, I need to tell you something. Jasmine's done this before. 3 times. The cat thing? Not just that, the whole playbook. Move in, isolate the pet, create ultimatum, play victim when it fails. She's got a pattern. Why does she do it? Control. She read some toxic dating advice about testing devotion, but she always picks pet owners because we're nurturing. Evelyn sent me screenshots from a group chat where Jasmine was bragging about her plan. From before she moved in, she'd literally written, "Once I'm in, the dog goes, then he'll be mine completely." I sent those to every mutual friend who'd questioned my decision. The response was unanimous. "Holy crap, you dodged a bullet." But yesterday was the real victory. Took Bruno to the pet store. He needed new toys after the stress of everything. Who do we run into? Jasmine, with a new guy, at the pet store, buying dog supplies. She saw me and went pale. Her new guy oblivious. "Babe, what kind of treats should we get for my dog?" I couldn't resist. "Careful, man, she's not a fan of dogs." "What? She loves dogs." She told me about her ex who abandoned her for choosing his dog over her. Real psycho stuff. Interesting, I'm the ex. She gave me an ultimatum to get rid of my dog. I chose the dog. The guy looked at Jasmine. "You said he was abusive." "He is. He's lying." I pulled out my phone, showed him the screenshots from Evelyn. The false report charge, the chocolate incident. He read them. His face went from confused to angry to disgusted. "You tried to kill his dog?" "I didn't actually do it. We're done." He left her standing there in the pet store with the dog supplies. For his dog she was probably already planning to eliminate. She started screaming at me. "You ruined everything." "No, Jasmine, you ruined everything the moment you thought you could make me choose between you and my family." Because that's what Bruno is, family. Security removed her. Again, she's now banned from that pet store too. Got home. Bruno was waiting at the door, tail wagging, happy to see me like always. No conditions. No ultimatums. just pure love. Evelyn texted me last night, heard about the pet store. Jasmine's having a complete meltdown. Mom's threatening to send her to therapy. Good, she needs it. Also, the guy from the pet store? He's pressing charges for fraud. She told him she had a dog to get him to date her. I laughed so hard, Bruno looked concerned. To everyone asking if I regret my choice, are you kidding? I chose a loyal companion who's been with me for 5 years over someone who tried to murder him with chocolate. I chose unconditional love over manipulation. I chose family over a narcissist. Bruno's currently snoring on his memory foam bed, occasionally woofing in his dreams, probably chasing rabbits, living his best life. And me? I'm living mine too. Without someone who thinks love means making people abandon things they care about. The house is peaceful. My couch is comfortable again. Threw out all her aesthetic furniture and got my old stuff back. The live, laugh, love signs are gone. Bruno's toys are everywhere. This is what a real home looks like. Messy, full of dog hair, and absolutely perfect. Oh, and Jasmine? If you're reading this, Evelyn says you stalk Reddit. Your new Instagram bio saying you're a survivor of narcissistic abuse is hilarious. The only thing you survived was the consequences of your own actions. Team Bruno, forever. Edit. Since everyone's asking, yes, Bruno got extra eggs and a new toy after the pet store incident. He's living his best life. Also, Evelyn and I are not dating, despite what the comments suggest. She's just a good person horrified by her sister's behavior. Edit 2. The guy from the pet store reached out to thank me. His dog is safe. We're actually getting beers next week. Bruno and his golden retriever might become friends. Jasmine inadvertently created a bromance. The irony is delicious. My fiancé said, I'm adopting a dog. I don't care about your allergies. Take medicine or move out. I said, you're right. Then I requested my sister to adopt her dream dog from the shelter she'd been visiting. Her tearful call asking why her dog was gone came within hours. I, 29 male, was with Brooke, 27, for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. My allergies to dogs aren't just take a Claritin and deal level. They're throat closing, can't breathe, ER visit, serious. Brooke knew this from day one. Hell, she was there during my last reaction at her cousin's house when their golden retriever jumped on me. Watched me use my EpiPen and everything. Last Monday, she drops this bomb over breakfast. I'm getting a dog. Found the perfect one at the shelter. His name's Biscuit, and I already put down the deposit. I literally choked on my coffee. Brooke, you know I could literally die, right? Stop being dramatic. Get allergy shots. Take medicine. People manage allergies all the time. Those shots take years to work, and they don't even work for everyone. Then maybe you should find somewhere else to live until you figure it out. I've wanted a dog my whole life, and I'm not letting your issues stop me anymore. Your issues? Like my medical condition was just an inconvenience to her lifestyle. This is my apartment, Brooke. I've been paying rent here for 5 years. She rolled her eyes. We're getting married. What's yours is mine. Besides, I've been contributing for 2 years now. Contributing. She paid for groceries and utilities. I covered the $2,800 monthly rent because she wanted to save for the wedding. So you're really choosing a dog you've never even met over your fiancé? I'm choosing my happiness. God, why do you make everything about you? I stood up, grabbed my keys. You're absolutely right. Where are you going? To choose my happiness. See, Brooke had been visiting the shelter every Sunday for weeks, sending me photos of this specific pit mix named Biscuit. Building a bond, she called it. She'd bragged to everyone about how she was rescuing him, how he only trusted her, how the shelter workers said they'd never seen such a connection. What she didn't know? My sister Daphne volunteers at that exact shelter. She'd been sending me updates about Brooke's visits, initially thinking it was cute how dedicated my fiancé was to finding the perfect dog, until I told her about the allergy situation. I called Daphne from my car. Hey, remember Biscuit? The dog your psycho fiancé keeps visiting? Yeah, why? How fast can you process an adoption? Tommy, what are you planning? She told me to move out of my own apartment because she's choosing that dog over me. So I'm choosing to let someone who actually deserves him have him. Don't you have a friend who's been looking for that exact breed? Holy shot, yeah, my coworker Eloise. She's been on the waiting list for a pit mix for months. Has a huge yard, works from home. Perfect. Can you make it happen today? Adoption fees $350. I'll Venmo you $500. Tell Eloise the extra is for his first vet visit. You beautiful petty bastard. Give me 2 hours. I went to the gym, then to my buddy Dean's place. Told him everything. He laughed so hard he nearly threw up. Bro, she really said what's yours is mine about your apartment? While contributing literally nothing to rent for 2 years. And she knows you could die? Watched me use an EpiPen, Dean. Still chose the dog. My phone started blowing up at 4 p.m. 12 missed calls from Brooke. I let it ring. Finally answered on call 13. What did you do? She was sob-screaming. Biscuit's gone. They said he was adopted this morning. Oh no, that's terrible. This is your fault. You did something. I know you did. How could I have done anything? I don't even know anyone at that shelter. You're lying. He was supposed to be mine. I've been visiting him for 6 weeks. Maybe you should have adopted him sooner then. I was waiting for my bonus next week. You know this. Guess someone else didn't want to wait. Dogs get adopted, Brooke. That's literally the point of shelters. I'm going down there. I'll get him back. I'll explain the situation. Good luck with that. She hung up. 20 minutes later, Daphne texted me. Your ex just made a scene. Security had to escort her out. She demanded to know who adopted her dog and tried to go into the employee area. They've banned her for 30 days. Update 1. So Brooke came home that night looking like she'd been crying for hours. Thought maybe she'd apologize, realize how messed up her ultimatum was. Nope. You need to fix this. I don't know how you did it, but you're going to get my dog back. Brooke, I didn't. Stop lying. The shelter said he was adopted by someone with a connection to a volunteer. You did this out of spite. You told me to choose between homelessness and death, but sure, I'm the spiteful one. She threw a pillow at me. You're so selfish. You know how much Biscuit meant to me. And you know how much breathing means to me. But here we are. She started packing a bag. I'm staying at my mom's until you fix this. Fix what? Make someone unadopt a dog? That's not how reality works. Then we're done. Okay. She stopped packing. Okay, that's it? You chose a dog you'd known for 6 weeks over your fiancé of 3 years. Yeah, we're done. You're not even going to fight for us? Fight for someone who told me my life-threatening medical condition was just an issue to get over? Pass. She left that night, but the entitlement was just getting started. The next morning, her mom Gloria called me. This woman. Y'all aren't ready. Thomas, what you did was disgusting. Stealing that poor animal from my daughter? I didn't steal anything. Someone else adopted him. After you arranged it, Brooke told me everything. Did she tell you she demanded I risk my life or move out of my own apartment? Everyone has allergies these days. You kids are so weak. In my day, we just dealt with it. In your day, people also died from allergies, Gloria. You're being dramatic. A little dog dander never killed anyone. I've literally been hospitalized 3 times. Well, maybe that's nature trying to tell you something. Did she just imply I should die? Cool. You're right, Gloria. Nature is telling me something. It's telling me your daughter inherited your compassion. How dare you? I hung up. Then came the text bombardment from Brooke's friends. Apparently, she'd told them I killed her dog to punish her. Killed. The dog. Her best friend Maddie, you're a monster. How could you put down an innocent animal? Her coworker Jade, Brooke's crying at work. Hope you're happy, dog killer. Her cousin Ramon, bro, that's serial killer behavior. Get help. I made one Facebook post. For clarity, I didn't kill any dogs. The dog my ex wanted was adopted by another family. That's it. Anyone who thinks I murdered an animal needs to reassess their critical thinking skills. Brooke called screaming, how dare you make me look stupid? You did that yourself when you told people I killed a dog that's literally living happily with another family. You turned everyone against me. No, your lies did that. I just told the truth. This isn't over, Tommy. You ruined my life over allergies. No, you ruined your own relationship over a dog you didn't even own. Big difference. Update 2, y'all. The escalation was insane. First, Brooke tried to get back into the apartment while I was at work. The landlord, Mr. Hayashi, called me. Tom, your ex is here with a U-Haul saying she needs to get her things, but she's trying to take your TV? She doesn't live here anymore. And that TV was mine before we met. Don't let her in. Already didn't. She's claiming she has tenant rights? She was never on the lease. She's a guest who overstayed. That's what I told her. She called me a slumlord and threatened to report me to the city. For what? Following the law? Who knows? I've banned her from the property. Security has her photo now. Then she went nuclear on social media, posted this long sob story about how I financially abused her by making her homeless, emotionally manipulated her by weaponizing my allergies, and isolated her from her emotional support animal. Biscuit was never her emotional support animal. He was a random shelter dog she'd visited a few times. But it got better. She started a GoFundMe, help me rebuild after domestic abuse. Goal, $10,000. The description was wild. After years of control and manipulation, I finally stood up to my abuser when I tried to adopt a therapeutic companion for my anxiety. He responded by having the animal destroyed and throwing me out of our home. Now I'm homeless, traumatized, and need help starting over. She raised $3,000 in 2 days. That's when I got petty. I commented with screenshots, her text saying she's choosing a dog over me, the shelter's adoption record showing Biscuit was adopted, not euthanized, her admission that she never actually adopted him, receipts showing I'd paid rent alone for 2 years, the lease showing only my name. The GoFundMe was down within hours. She had to refund everyone. But the peak entitlement came Saturday morning. I woke up to pounding on my door at 7 a.m. Not Brooke. Eloise, the woman who adopted Biscuit, was standing there looking terrified. Are you Thomas, Daphne's brother? Yeah, what's wrong? This woman showed up at my house at 6 a.m. She tried to take Rocco. Rocco? That's what I renamed Biscuit. She was in my backyard trying to leash him. My security camera caught everything. When I confronted her, she said I stole her dog and she was taking him back. Oh my God, are you okay? Is Rocco okay? We're fine, but she said you would pay for stealing her life? I'm pressing charges, but thought you should know. I gave her my number in case she needed anything for the police report. Then I called Brooke. You tried to steal someone's dog? He's mine. You stole him. He was never yours, and now you're going to have a criminal record. This is all your fault. If you'd just gotten over your stupid allergies. My stupid allergies didn't make you trespass and attempt theft, Brooke. I'm gonna sue you for emotional distress. Good luck suing me for not dying for your convenience. She hung up. An hour later, her sister Nina called. Tommy, please don't press charges. Brooke's just heartbroken. I'm not pressing charges. The woman whose property she trespassed on is. Can't you talk to her? Why would I help someone who chose a dog over my life? She loves dogs. You knew this. I love breathing. She knew that too. You're being so stubborn. Relationships require compromise. What did Brooke compromise on exactly? Silence. That's what I thought. Update 3. The court date for Brooke's trespassing charge was set, but before that, she pulled one more stunt that backfired spectacularly. Remember how she saved for our wedding while I paid rent? Well, she tried to claim I owed her half that money back since we weren't getting married. She actually got a lawyer to send me a demand letter for $8,500. My lawyer's response was beautiful. He itemized everything. 24 months of rent I paid alone, $67,200. Utilities she claimed to pay, but I actually covered, $3,600. Her wedding savings that came from not paying living expenses, $0 in actual contribution. The engagement ring I bought, $4,200. Counteroffer, she owed me $37,500 for half the rent during her stay. Her lawyer dropped her immediately. Then came the trespassing hearing. Eloise was incredible. She brought security footage of Brooke jumping her fence, video of Brooke trying to leash Rocco while he cowered, audio of Brooke screaming, "He's mine, this psycho stole him," photos of her damaged gate from Brooke trying to force it open. Brooke's defense? I was retrieving stolen property. Judge, do you have proof of ownership? I visited him at the shelter. Ask anyone. Visiting an animal doesn't make it yours, ma'am. Did you complete an adoption? I was going to. So you trespassed to steal someone else's dog because you were planning to adopt it eventually? My fiancé sabotaged. That's irrelevant to the trespassing charge. She got 100 hours community service, a $1,000 fine, and a restraining order keeping her 500 feet from Eloise and Rocco. The meltdown afterward was epic. She stood outside the courthouse screaming that the system protects abusers. A reporter actually approached thinking she was protesting something important. When she started ranting about her stolen dog, they just walked away. Final update. It's been a month now, and karma came through in ways I never expected. First, Brooke's job found out about the fake GoFundMe. Someone forwarded them the screenshots. Turns out claiming to be a domestic abuse victim for money when you're not is fraud. They fired her for ethics violations. Then her apartment hunt went sideways. Every landlord she applied to somehow found out about the trespassing conviction and restraining order. Daphne may or may not have connections in property management who spread the word about a problematic tenant. Can't confirm or deny. She ended up having to move back with Gloria. From what I heard through mutual friends, that lasted exactly 1 week before Gloria kicked her out for trying to bring home a puppy without asking. Even her own mother wouldn't tolerate her BS anymore. The last I heard, she was couch surfing and posted on Facebook about how toxic people had conspired against her and she was rising above the negativity. The comments were brutal. Even her own friends were done. Maddie, girl, you chose a dog you didn't own over your relationship. This is on you. Maybe stop lying about people killing dogs? You need therapy, not Facebook. But the best part? Daphne sent me a photo last week. She was at the dog park with Eloise and Rocco. He's thriving, gained healthy weight, learned 3 new tricks, and even has a doggy best friend. Eloise included a note. Thank you for the chaos that brought me my best friend. Rocco says woof, which means thanks for saving me from crazy lady. As for me, I'm doing great. Started dating Heather from my CrossFit gym. She's actually allergic to dogs too, so we bonded over medical alert bracelets and EpiPen brands. Romantic, I know. When I told her this whole story, she laughed until she cried, then said, anyone who'd choose a hypothetical dog over an actual human doesn't deserve either. My apartment's never been more peaceful. I can breathe freely, literally and figuratively. Blocked Brooke and her flying monkeys on everything. Even got a promotion at work that I'd been too stressed to pursue while dealing with her drama. The other day, Dean asked if I had any regrets. Just one, I said. I should have let Daphne adopt that dog the first Sunday Brooke visited him. To anyone dealing with someone who dismisses your medical needs, puts ultimatums over your safety, or expects you to literally risk death for their wants, run. They're showing you exactly how much your life means to them. Believe them. And if they happen to obsess over a shelter dog they haven't adopted yet, well, maybe make sure you know some volunteers. Just saying. Brooke, if you're reading this, and we all know you are, stop making fake accounts to stalk my Reddit. Rocco's living his best life with someone who actually followed through on adopting him, instead of just talking about it. Maybe focus on getting your life together instead of blaming everyone else for the consequences of your choices. Oh, and Gloria? Your daughter didn't inherit just your lack of empathy. She got your entitlement too. Congrats on raising someone who thinks attempted dog theft is a reasonable response to not getting her way. Peace out. And remember, always choose breathing. Edit. No, I won't share Brooke's social media. Let her spiral in peace. Yes, Rocco is a very good boy. No, I don't feel bad. She literally told me to become homeless or die. The bar for my sympathy was underground, and she still managed to limbo under it. Edit 2. For everyone asking how I sleep at night, on high-quality hypoallergenic sheets in my peaceful dog-free apartment. Thanks for asking. Edit 3. Just found out, Brooke tried to adopt another dog from a different shelter. They called the first shelter for a reference. It did not go well. She's essentially blacklisted from every shelter in a 50-mile radius now. The rescue community does not play about people who trespass to steal dogs. You love to see it.
Christy, 28, returns home unexpectedly to find strange workers in her bedroom. Her sister Amanda claims they're doing renovations before they move in together, but something feels off about the workers' behavior and her sister's nervous explanation. The next morning, aggressive knocking startles Christy awake, police officers at their door demanding to speak with her sister. Before I dive into this nightmare that changed everything between us, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had that gut feeling when something wasn't right in your own home. My name is Christy Morgan, a 28-year-old graphic designer living in Seattle. I've always been the responsible one in our family. The planner, the organizer, the one who thinks things through. My sister Amanda is 3 years younger than me, and we're as different as two sisters can be. While I was studying design and building my career, Amanda was bouncing between jobs, chasing adventures, and living for the moment. Despite our differences, we've always been close, even when her spontaneity clashed with my cautious nature. Our parents moved to Florida when we both reached adulthood, leaving us to navigate life in the Pacific Northwest on our own. I settled into a comfortable routine in my small but cozy one-bedroom apartment downtown, while Amanda found herself in a whirlwind romance with Jordan, a charming guy with expensive taste who worked in real estate. Or at least that's what she told me. They moved in together after just 6 months into a luxury apartment in one of the trendiest neighborhoods in the city. I remember visiting them for the first time, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, and the rooftop pool with views of the skyline. Something about it didn't add up. Neither of them had the kind of jobs that would support this lifestyle. But when I gently asked Amanda about it, she brushed it off, saying Jordan had family money. 3 years into their relationship, everything fell apart. I got a call from Amanda at 2 a.m, her voice broken by sobs. She said she'd found text messages from another woman on Jordan's phone, intimate messages that had been going on for months. According to Amanda, when she confronted him, he barely denied it, telling her she could either accept it or leave. She chose to leave, showing up at my door with 2 hastily packed suitcases and tears streaming down her face. What could I do? She was my sister. I made up the couch and told her she could stay as long as she needed. Days turned into weeks, and while my apartment was too small for both of us long-term, I couldn't bring myself to tell her to leave when she was so heartbroken. At least that's what I thought was happening. After about a month of Amanda sleeping on my couch, I suggested we look for a bigger place together. My lease was coming up for renewal anyway, and combining our resources would give us both more space and flexibility. Amanda seemed excited about the idea, immediately jumping online to look at 2-bedroom apartments in neighborhoods that were frankly out of my price range. When I pointed this out, she became oddly secretive about finances, claiming she had more savings than I realized, and that Jordan had given her a substantial parting settlement to ease his guilt. It took several weeks, but we finally found a reasonably priced 2-bedroom in Queen Anne, a nice neighborhood not far from my office. The apartment wasn't as luxurious as the place she'd shared with Jordan, but it was a significant upgrade from my current situation, newer building in unit laundry, and even a small balcony with a partial view of the Space Needle. We signed the lease and set a move-in date for the following month. That's when Amanda started acting strange. She'd change the subject whenever I brought up moving logistics or our budget for furniture. I'd catch her on hushed phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. Once I came home early from work and found her looking at expensive jewelry online, which seemed odd given her supposed financial situation after the breakup. But I chalked it up to retail therapy, a way of coping with her heartbreak. About 2 weeks before our move-in date, I had an important client presentation in Portland. I was supposed to be gone for 3 days, presenting a rebranding campaign to a major athletic wear company. I'd been preparing for weeks, and Amanda had been supportive, helping me rehearse my talking points and giving feedback on my slides. The morning I was scheduled to leave, she hugged me tightly and wished me luck, saying she'd use the time to start packing up some of our things for the move. The client canceled the presentation just 4 hours after I arrived in Portland. A last-minute acquisition had put all their marketing decisions on hold for at least 30 days. I was disappointed after all the preparation, but my boss was understanding, telling me to take the rest of the week off as compensation for my hard work. Rather than staying in Portland alone, I decided to surprise Amanda by coming home early. Maybe we could use the unexpected free time to get a head start on packing together. I took the afternoon train back to Seattle, stopping to pick up Thai food from our favorite restaurant as a small consolation for my canceled presentation. As I walked up the stairs to my apartment, I heard voices inside. Male voices I didn't recognize. My first thought was that Amanda had invited friends over, maybe to help with packing. But there was something furtive about the low murmur of conversation that made me pause outside my own door. I put my key in the lock, turned it, and pushed the door open, completely unprepared for what I was about to discover. I stepped into my apartment and immediately sensed something was wrong. The voices fell silent at the sound of the door opening. I set the Thai food down on the entryway table and called out, "Amanda, I'm home early." The presentation got canceled. No response. Just an uncomfortable silence followed by hushed whispers. I walked further in toward my bedroom and froze in the doorway. 3 men in work clothes were in my room. One was kneeling by my closet, another had his hands on my dresser, and the third was examining my window frame. My room was in complete disarray. The contents of my closet spilled onto the floor, my dresser drawers pulled out, and several floorboards actually pulled up near the corner of the room. The men looked just as startled to see me as I was to see them. They exchanged quick glances, and the tallest one, a burly guy with a dark beard, started to say something when Amanda burst into the room, her face flushed and eyes wide. "Christy, what are you doing home?" Her voice was high-pitched, almost panicky. She looked from me to the men and back again, clearly thrown off balance. "My presentation got canceled," I repeated slowly, taking in the scene. "Who are these people, and what are they doing in my bedroom?" Amanda laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh, I should have called you. These guys are contractors, checking out some things before we move into the new place. Mr. Davis, Paul, and Rick." She gestured to each man in turn, but none of them offered to shake my hand or even made proper eye contact. "The landlord at the new apartment is giving us a deal on some renovations as a move-in bonus, but they needed to check some structural details first." I looked around my demolished bedroom, confusion turning to suspicion. In our current apartment, that doesn't make any sense. "Well, they needed to see how certain features are built so they can match them in the new place," Amanda said quickly. "You mentioned wanting the closet layout to be similar. Remember?" I didn't remember saying anything of the sort. Looking more closely at the men, I noticed none of them had proper tool belts, just a few basic tools stuck in their pockets. Their work clothes had no company logos, no name patches, nothing to identify them as legitimate contractors. The youngest one, who Amanda had called Rick, kept nervously checking his phone, and the one by my closet seemed more interested in the depth of the wall than taking any measurements. "Show me the paperwork," I said, holding out my hand. "The agreement with the landlord about these renovations." Amanda's smile faltered. "It's all electronic. I'll forward you the emails tonight." She turned to the men. "I think we've got what we need for today, guys. Thanks for coming by." The men gathered a few things, notably not measuring tapes or level tools, but what looked like some kind of scanning device, and filed past me without meeting my eyes. The one called Paul bumped against my shoulder without apologizing, and I caught a whiff of expensive cologne, not something I associated with contractors who worked with building materials all day. As soon as the door closed behind them, I turned to Amanda. "What is really going on here?" "I told you," she said defensively, crossing her arms. "They're doing pre-renovation checks for the new apartment." "That makes zero sense, Amanda. Why would they need to tear up my floor and go through my closet to renovate a completely different apartment?" I gestured to the mess they'd left behind. "And why were they in my room specifically? Why not the living room or kitchen if they're planning renovations?" "You're always so suspicious." Amanda's voice rose. "Can't you just trust me for once? The bedroom layout is similar to the one in the new place, and they needed to check the electrical and plumbing access points. The landlord is giving us a great deal, and I didn't want to mess it up by being difficult." "What's the name of the renovation company?" I asked. Amanda hesitated just a beat too long. "Seattle Home Improvements. They do a lot of work with the property management company." "And the landlord's name and contact information, I'd like to confirm this arrangement directly." "His name is Brian Miller, but I don't have his direct number. Everything goes through the property management company." Amanda's phone buzzed and she glanced at it quickly. "Look, I'll show you all the documentation tomorrow, okay? I'm sorry about the mess. I didn't expect you back so soon, and I wanted to surprise you with the renovation plans." Her tone softened. "Let's go out for dinner to celebrate your early return." my treat. I wanted to press further, but Amanda was already grabbing her purse and heading for the door, clearly eager to end the conversation. I reluctantly followed, taking one last look at my ransacked bedroom and making a mental note to search for this Seattle home improvements company as soon as possible. We went to a local Italian restaurant, one of our favorites, but the dinner conversation felt strained and artificial. Amanda kept checking her phone throughout the meal, typing quick responses to texts and then putting it face down on the table. She asked unusually detailed questions about my canceled presentation. When exactly did I find out it was canceled? What time did I decide to return home? Whether my boss expected me back in the office tomorrow? Each question felt less like casual interest and more like she was gathering information. "Who keeps texting you?" I finally asked, after her phone buzzed for the 5th time. "Just some friends," she said vaguely. "Making weekend plans." "One of those guys from today?" Amanda's eyes narrowed slightly. "No, just friends. Why are you interrogating me?" "I'm not interrogating you. I just came home to find strange men going through my personal belongings, and you're being weirdly secretive about it." "I'm not being secretive. I told you exactly what they were doing." She signaled for the check. "I have a headache. Can we head back?" The walk home was silent, the earlier closeness between us replaced by a tension I couldn't quite name. As soon as we got back to the apartment, Amanda claimed her headache was worse and went straight to bed, closing the door firmly behind her. I stood in the living room, listening to the silence of the apartment and feeling for the first time like a stranger in my own home. Sleep eluded me that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those men in my room, Amanda's nervous expression, the too casual way she dismissed my concerns. I got up around midnight and went back to my bedroom, surveying the mess more carefully. As I put my clothes back in the closet and reorganized my dresser drawers, I noticed subtle differences from how I'd left things. My jewelry box, which I always kept on the right side of my dresser, was now slightly to the left. The laptop on my desk was closed. I distinctly remembered leaving it open when I left for Portland. A photo frame on my nightstand was tilted at a different angle. Someone had definitely been searching through my things, and not very carefully at that. But what were they looking for? I didn't have anything valuable enough to warrant this kind of invasion. I sat at my computer and searched for Seattle home improvements. The results showed several general contracting companies, but none with that specific name. I tried variations: Seattle Home Improvement singular, Seattle Home Renovations, Seattle Improvements, all with no relevant results. For a company that supposedly did a lot of work with property management companies, they had virtually no online presence. Next, I searched through Amanda's discarded mail on the kitchen counter until I found a welcome letter from the property management company of our new apartment building. It had a phone number for their customer service line. I saved it to my phone, planning to call first thing in the morning. Sleep still wouldn't come, so I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Amanda's purse while she was sleeping. Her bedroom door was closed, and I could hear her steady breathing as I carefully searched through her bag in the dim light of the living room. Inside a zippered pocket, I found a key I didn't recognize, not the shape of a house key or car key, but something else, possibly for a storage unit or safety deposit box. There was also a business card for Secure Storage Solutions with an address across town, a facility I'd never heard Amanda mention. As I carefully replaced everything and returned her purse to the entryway table, my mind raced with uncomfortable questions. Why would Amanda need a storage unit when she'd brought all her possessions to my apartment after leaving Jordan? And why hadn't she mentioned it? I thought back over the past few weeks, recalling other behaviors that had seemed odd but not alarming at the time. Amanda had made several cash deposits to our joint moving fund account, claiming they were from freelance social media work she'd been doing, but she'd never mentioned any clients or showed me any of the work. She'd been buying new clothes, expensive brands I knew she couldn't afford on her barista salary, claiming they were sales or secondhand finds. And there were the phone calls, always taken in the bathroom with the shower running or outside on the building's fire escape, always ending when I came near. I'd assumed she was talking to friends about Jordan, Maybe even talking to Jordan himself, trying to work things out privately. Now I wasn't so sure. I considered waking her up and demanding answers, but what exactly would I accuse her of? Having storage I didn't know about, making mysterious phone calls. None of it was concrete evidence of anything truly wrong, just a collection of strange behaviors and inconsistencies that were setting off alarm bells in my head. Instead, I texted my friend Daniela, a real estate agent who would know about legitimate renovation practices. It was late past 1 in the morning, so I didn't expect an immediate response. "Hey Danny, quick question about rental properties. Is it normal for landlords to send contractors to a tenant's current apartment to plan renovations for a new apartment they're moving into? Especially invasive work, like pulling up floorboards. Amanda says it's a move-in bonus, but it feels weird." To my surprise, she responded almost immediately. "That's not just weird, it's extremely unusual. Pre-move renovations would require formal contracts and tenant approval, and they would never involve current property or structural work without landlord permission. What's going on? Are you okay?" I texted back, just trying to understand something that happened today. "Can you look into a property management company for me tomorrow? We'll call with details." Daniela's response deepened my unease. "Of course. But Christy, be careful. This doesn't sound right at all." I put my phone down and stared out the window at the city lights. What was Amanda involved in? Was she in some kind of trouble? Was she working with those men to scam the new landlord somehow? Or was there something even worse happening that I couldn't yet see? I finally fell into an uneasy sleep around 3 in the morning, my mind cycling through theories about what my sister might be hiding. Insurance fraud, some kind of scam targeting landlords, or something more sinister. I couldn't even imagine. Whatever it was, I was determined to get to the bottom of it before we signed the final paperwork on our new apartment next week. The pounding on our front door jerked me awake with a surge of adrenaline. Harsh, authoritative knocking that couldn't be ignored. I fumbled for my phone. 6:30 in the morning. Who would be here at this hour? I heard Amanda's voice in the hallway, high and panicked. "Christy, Christy, wake up." I stumbled out of bed, pulling on a robe over my pajamas. In the hallway, I found Amanda standing frozen, her face pale still in her sleep shorts and tank top. She looked at me with wide, frightened eyes. "There are police officers at the door," she whispered, her voice shaking. Another series of loud knocks made us both jump. I moved past Amanda toward the door, my heart hammering. Through the peephole, I could see 2 officers in uniform, a tall, stern-looking man with salt and pepper hair, and a younger woman with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. I opened the door, trying to project a calm I didn't feel. "Can I help you?" "Seattle Police Department," the male officer said, showing his badge. "I'm Officer Ramirez, this is Officer Chen. We have a search warrant for this apartment." He held up an official-looking document. "Are you Christy Morgan?" I nodded, my mouth suddenly dry. "And is Amanda Morgan also present?" he asked, looking past me. "That's my sister. She's here. What is this about?" "We need to speak with both of you, officer," Chen said, her tone slightly more sympathetic than her partner's. "May we come in?" As they stepped inside, Amanda suddenly screamed at me from across the room. "What did you do? Did you call them? How could you do this to me?" I turned to her in confusion. "What, I didn't call anyone. I don't even know why they're here." Officer Ramirez interrupted our exchange. "Miss Morgan, Amanda, we have a warrant to search these premises in connection with a series of high-end burglaries in the Capitol Hill and Queen Anne neighborhoods. We need you both to sit down while we conduct our search." "Burglaries?" I looked at Amanda, expecting to see the same shock and confusion I felt, but instead her face had gone completely white, her eyes darting toward her bedroom door. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice trembling. "We haven't done anything wrong. You can't just come in here and accuse people." "We're not accusing anyone yet," Officer Chen said calmly. "We're investigating based on evidence. Please, both of you sit down in the living room while we do our job." I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly weak. Amanda remained standing, arms crossed defensively across her chest. "Amanda, please sit down," Officer Ramirez said more firmly. When she finally complied, perching on the edge of the armchair, he nodded to Officer Chen, who began searching the apartment, starting with Amanda's bedroom. Officer Ramirez stayed with us, asking questions. "Miss Morgan, Christy, how long have you and your sister been living together?" "About 6 weeks," I said automatically. She was living with her boyfriend before that, but they broke up. "And what do you know about your sister's activities and friends during this time?" "Not much," I admitted, the realization hitting me as I said it. "She's been looking for a job helping me plan our move to a new apartment next week. I work full-time, so I'm not home during the day." "Have you noticed anything unusual? Visitors, new possessions, changes in behavior?" Before I could answer, Officer Chen called from Amanda's room. "Ramirez, you need to see this." The officer excused himself and went to Amanda's room. I turned to my sister, who was staring at the floor, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. "Amanda, what's happening? What have you done?" I whispered. She wouldn't look at me. "You wouldn't understand. You've always had everything figured out. Perfect Christy with her perfect job and perfect life." "What are you talking about? My life isn't perfect. I've worked hard for everything I have." "Some of us have to take shortcuts," she hissed, finally meeting my eyes with a glare. "Some of us aren't content with scraping by." Officer Ramirez returned, his expression grim. Officer Chen followed, carrying a small lockbox that she placed on the coffee table. She opened it, revealing several watches and pieces of jewelry that looked expensive, far more expensive than anything either of us could afford. "Amanda Morgan," Officer Ramirez said. "Formally stand up, please." Amanda stood slowly, her defiance crumbling into fear. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back." As Officer Ramirez began reading Amanda her rights, securing handcuffs around her wrists, she broke down, completely alternating between sobbing and glaring accusingly at me. "This is your fault," she cried, as they prepared to lead her away. "I was only trying to secure our future. You have no idea what I've done for you, for us." "Ma'am, anything you say can be used against you in court," Officer Chen reminded her. "You might want to wait for your lawyer." As they led my handcuffed sister toward the door, I stood there in shock, unable to process what was happening. Officer Chen turned back to me. "We'll need you to come down to the station as well, Miss Morgan. We have some more questions about your knowledge of your sister's activities." "Am I under arrest too?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "No, not at this time. We just need your statement. You can follow us in your own vehicle if you prefer." Amanda looked back at me one last time before they took her out the door. Her face was streaked with tears, but there was something else there too, a hardness I'd never seen before, as if a mask had slipped to reveal a stranger underneath. "You've ruined everything," she said quietly, each word distinct and cold. "Everything." And then she was gone, leaving me standing alone in an apartment that no longer felt like home, wondering how the sister I thought I knew could have become someone I didn't recognize at all. The police station was cold and sterile, with harsh fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sickly. I sat in a small interview room for over an hour before Detective Marshall finally arrived, carrying a thick folder and a cup of coffee. He was middle-aged, with tired eyes but a kind smile that put me slightly more at ease. "Miss Morgan, thank you for your patience. I'm Detective Marshall. I'm handling the case involving your sister." He sat across from me, placing the folder on the table between us. "I understand this must be confusing and upsetting for you." "I don't understand any of this," I said, my voice hoarse from unshed tears. "My sister isn't a criminal." Detective Marshall's expression was sympathetic but firm. "I'm afraid the evidence suggests otherwise. What I'm about to share with you may be difficult to hear, but we believe you're an innocent party in all this, and your cooperation could be very helpful." He opened the folder and spread out several photographs. I recognized Amanda immediately. Security camera footage showing her entering various apartment buildings, sometimes alone, sometimes with a man I recognized as Jordan, her supposed ex-boyfriend. "Your sister, along with Jordan Reeves, has been part of a sophisticated burglary ring targeting high-end apartments in Seattle for the past 3 years," Detective Marshall explained. They developed a system of identifying wealthy targets, gaining access to their buildings and stealing valuable items that could be easily transported and sold. But they broke up, I said weakly. She caught him cheating. That's why she moved in with me. Detective Marshall shook his head. That was a cover story, Miss Morgan. Jordan Reeves was arrested 2 weeks ago for an unrelated offense, driving under the influence. During the arrest, officers found stolen property in his vehicle. He's been cooperating with our investigation since then, which is how we connected the dots to your sister. My mind was reeling. So there was no breakup. It was all a lie. According to Mr. Reeves, he and your sister staged the breakup after his arrest. They were concerned we might be closing in on their operation, and they needed a new base of operations. Your apartment provided that. The realization hit me like a physical blow. She used me as a cover. I'm afraid so. And the new apartment you were planning to move into, it was their next target. Somehow your sister obtained keys to the unit and was planning to clean it out before the real new tenants moved in. I thought of the workers in my bedroom the way they had been examining the walls and floors, the men in my room yesterday. Amanda's new associates, Detective Marshall, confirmed. With Jordan in custody, she needed new partners. According to our information, they were using your bedroom to temporarily store some of their stolen goods. That's what they were retrieving when you surprised them by coming home early. In my room, without my knowledge, the betrayal cut deep, making it hard to breathe. We believe items were hidden in your closet and under your floorboards, places you wouldn't normally look. Detective Marshall slid another photograph across the table. It showed a storage unit filled with electronics, jewelry designer, handbags, and artwork. This was recovered from a storage unit rented under your sister's name this morning. The key was found in her possession during booking. I recognized the name on the storage facility sign in the photo, the same company whose card I'd found in Amanda's purse. I also recognized some of the items from news reports about break-ins in affluent neighborhoods. How long has this been going on? I asked, struggling to reconcile this information with the sister I thought I knew. Based on our investigation and Jordan's testimony about 3 years, they met at a club discovered they both had an interest in, let's call it wealth redistribution, and started small taking items from parties they attended. It escalated when they realized Amanda's job at a high-end cleaning service gave them access to luxury apartments and information about when residents would be away. 3 years. The entire time she was with Jordan living in that expensive apartment, I couldn't understand how they afforded. It hadn't been family money or lucky investments. It had been stolen goods. We don't believe you were involved, Miss Morgan. Detective Marshall said, his tone gentler now. But we do need your full cooperation. Anything you can tell us about Amanda's contacts, activities, or things you might have noticed could help us dismantle the rest of this operation. I spent the next 2 hours answering questions, telling them everything I could remember. The secretive phone calls, the unexplained cash, the strange key and storage card, the workers in my bedroom. Each detail I shared felt like another betrayal of my sister. But I couldn't protect someone I no longer recognized. As our interview was wrapping up, I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. Can I see her? Detective Marshall hesitated. She's still being processed. It might be better to wait a few days. Give both of you some time to process this. I need to look her in the eye, I insisted. I need to hear from her directly why she would do this to me, to us. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. I'll see what I can arrange. But don't expect closure today, Miss Morgan. These situations are complicated, and the truth often comes out in layers, not all at once. As I gathered my things to leave, Detective Marshall added one last piece of advice. Don't go back to your apartment alone tonight. Is there someone you can stay with? A friend or other family member? I thought of Daniela, who had been texting me throughout the day, concerned about my cryptic messages from last night. Yes, I have someone. Good. And Miss Morgan, none of this is your fault. Remember that. But as I left the police station, stepping into the harsh sunlight of a world that had been irreversibly changed, I couldn't help but wonder how I had missed the signs, How I had been so thoroughly deceived by my own flesh, blood. The sister I thought I knew had been a carefully crafted illusion, and I had fallen for it completely. 5 days passed before I was allowed to visit Amanda in jail. 5 days of cooperating with the investigation, moving my belongings to Daniela's spare room, and trying to make sense of how my life had imploded so completely. Our new apartment lease was canceled. My current apartment, now a crime scene I couldn't return to. I'd had to tell my boss a sanitized version of events to explain my extended absence from work. Each night I lay awake wondering who my sister really was. The visitors area of the King County Correctional Facility was depressingly institutional. Hard plastic chairs, glass partitions, everything in shades of beige and gray. I sat nervously waiting, my hands clenched together to stop their trembling. When they brought Amanda in, I almost didn't recognize her. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back severely, her face pale without makeup, the orange jumpsuit hanging loosely on her frame. She looked smaller, somehow diminished, but her eyes, when they met mine, still held that defiant spark I'd seen as they led her away. She sat across from me, the glass between us, like a physical manifestation of the truth that now separated us. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "You look terrible," she finally said, her voice flat. "So do you," I replied. Another silence stretched between us. "Why did you come?" she asked. I needed answers. I needed to hear it from you. Amanda laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "What has Detective Marshall told you? That I'm a master criminal, the mastermind behind some grand theft ring? He told me enough. That you and Jordan never really broke up. That you've been stealing from people for years. That you used me as cover after Jordan got arrested." My voice cracked on the last words. "That you stored stolen things in my room without my knowledge." She stared at me for a long moment, then sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." "Like what, Amanda? What was it supposed to be like?" "We were just taking things from people who wouldn't miss them, rich people with too much stuff and good insurance. Nobody was getting hurt. Except the people whose homes you invaded, whose privacy you violated, whose sense of security you destroyed." I leaned forward. "Except me, who you lied to and manipulated." Something in her expression shifted, a crack in the defensive facade. It started small, just a bracelet left out at a party we were catering. No one even noticed it was gone. Then a watch. Then we realized how easy it was, how careless rich people are with their things. "So you just decided to become thieves just like that?" "Jordan had connections, people who would buy the items, no questions asked. We were good at it, Christy, really good. We developed a system. I would clean these luxury apartments, learn the layouts, figure out when people would be away. Jordan would handle the actual entry and exit. We never got caught, not once in 3 years. Until Jordan got pulled over for a DUI." Amanda's expression darkened. That idiot. One mistake and everything fell apart. He couldn't keep his mouth shut to save his own skin, started talking to the cops right away to get a better deal. "So you came to me, with a sob story about him cheating." I needed a place to stay, a legitimate cover while I figured things out. "And you've always been so reliable." The way she said it made it sound like an insult. Always doing the right thing, following the rules, settling for less. "I wasn't settling," I said, anger rising in my chest. "I was living honestly, building something real." "Were you working 60 hours a week in a tiny apartment, barely making rent?" Meanwhile, I was living in a luxury high-rise, traveling whenever I wanted, wearing designer clothes. Her eyes took on an almost feverish gleam. "Do you know how good that felt? To take what they had, what they didn't even appreciate? And now you're in jail, Amanda. Was it worth it?" She looked away. "We had a good run. 3 years of freedom, of having whatever we wanted." "Why did you involve me in the new apartment scheme? Why drag me into this?" "It wasn't supposed to go that way. But after Jordan got arrested, I needed a new approach. The new apartment building was perfect. High-end units, minimal security. I got a copy of the keys from the leasing agent. People are so careless during apartment showings. The plan was to clear it out right before move-in day, then claim it was broken into before we arrived. And the men in my room. After you said you were going to Portland, I arranged for them to come retrieve some items we'd stored there. Things were getting hot and we needed to move our inventory. You weren't supposed to be home. Her tone was almost accusatory, as if my early return was the real problem. I shook my head in disbelief. You hid stolen property in my bedroom where I sleep. How could you do that to me? For the first time, Amanda looked slightly ashamed. It was only temporary, just until we could move it to the storage unit. Did you ever think about what would happen to me if you got caught? What this would do to my life? My career? You would have been fine. Little Miss Perfect always lands on her feet. Her dismissive tone ignited something in me. There's something else I need to know. Detective Marshall mentioned you'd been stealing for 3 years. 6 months ago, Mom called me upset because some of Grandma's jewelry had gone missing from their house. She thought she'd misplaced it during their move to Florida. Was that you? Amanda's eyes slid away from mine, and I had my answer. You stole from our own mother Grandma's jewelry. That was supposed to be my inheritance? You weren't even wearing it, she said defensively. It was just sitting in a box. We needed startup capital for a bigger operation, and those pieces were worth a lot. I felt physically ill. Do you even hear yourself? That was our family history, Amanda. Pieces that had been passed down for generations. It's just stuff, Christy. That's all any of it is, just stuff. It's not about the stuff, it's about trust, about family, about basic human decency, I was nearly shouting, now drawing looks from a nearby guard. Amanda leaned forward, her voice dropping to an urgent whisper. Listen to me. I know this looks bad, but you can help me. The police don't have everything. There are still some items they haven't found, things that could set us up if you'd just help me. I stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious right now? You want me to help you hide evidence? Just provide an alibi for certain dates. Say I was with you. They'll believe you. Everyone thinks you're so honest and trustworthy. Her eyes took on a calculating gleam. We could share what's left. Enough for both of us to start over somewhere new. In that moment, I finally saw my sister. Clearly, not the persona she'd crafted, not the little sister I'd protected all our lives, but the person she'd actually become. Someone who would steal from family, lie without remorse, and try to manipulate me even now. I stood up. No, Amanda. I won't lie for you. I won't be part of this. So that's it, you're just going to abandon me when I need you most. Her voice rose, edges of panic breaking through. What happened to sisters forever? What happened to having each other's backs? That ended when you decided to use me as a pawn in your criminal activities. When you put my reputation, my career, my future at risk without a second thought. I gathered my purse, preparing to leave. I'll always be your sister, Amanda. But I can't support what you've done. As I turned to walk away, Amanda called after me, her voice cracking with emotion for the first time. Family should come first. Christy blood should come first. You're abandoning me when I need you most. I paused, tears streaming down my face, but didn't look back. You abandoned what family means long before today. I heard her continue shouting as I walked away, her words growing more desperate and angry, but I kept moving forward each step, both breaking my heart and strengthening my resolve. I loved my sister, but I couldn't sacrifice my integrity, not even for her. 6 months have passed since that day in the visitor's room. 6 months of rebuilding my life piece by piece, of finding my footing in a world that had been turned upside down. I moved to a different neighborhood in Seattle, a fresh start in a place with no memories of betrayal. My graphic design business actually grew during this time. Turns out channeling grief and confusion into creative work can yield powerful results. Amanda pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for information about the larger operation and the fence who had been selling their stolen goods. The prosecutor recommended a 3-year sentence with the possibility of parole after 18 months. Jordan received 5 years for his larger role in organizing the thefts. The aftermath was difficult in ways I couldn't have anticipated. At first, I isolated myself, afraid to trust anyone. If my own sister could deceive me so completely, How could I trust friends, colleagues, or potential partners? I became hypervigilant, analyzing every interaction for signs of manipulation or hidden agendas. Therapy became my lifeline. My therapist helped me understand that Amanda's actions reflected her choices, not my judgment or worth. We worked through the guilt I felt for not recognizing the signs sooner, for potentially enabling her behavior by offering my apartment as a safe haven. You saw what you expected to see, my therapist explained. You expected honesty from family, which is normal and healthy. Don't punish yourself for having faith in your sister. Gradually, I rebuilt my capacity to trust, starting with small steps. I accepted Daniela's invitation to a dinner party. I joined a graphic designers networking group. I volunteered at an animal shelter, finding comfort in the uncomplicated affection of abandoned pets who needed someone to believe in them again. One of the hardest parts was visiting our parents in Florida. They had moved there for retirement 3 years earlier, maintaining contact with both of us, primarily through phone calls and occasional visits. I had to be the one to tell them what their younger daughter had done, watching their faces crumple with confusion, shame, and grief. "Where did we go wrong?" my mother asked, tears streaming down her face. "You didn't," I assured her, though I was still asking myself the same question. Amanda made her own choices. My father, always more stoic, simply asked, "Did she ever explain why?" I couldn't give them a satisfying answer. Amanda's explanations had always circled around entitlement and easy money, never touching the deeper question of why she felt justified in causing so much harm. When I mentioned the stolen family jewelry, my mother's pain was palpable. "Those pieces were meant for you girls to connect you to your history," she said, that she would sell her own heritage. The healing process took an unexpected turn when Detective Marshall contacted me about a restorative justice program. Some of the burglary victims wanted to meet with people connected to the crimes. I was hesitant at first, afraid of their anger and blame, but eventually agreed. The first meeting was with an elderly couple whose family photos and heirlooms had been taken, along with more valuable items. I expected recrimination, but found something different. "We don't blame you," the woman said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "But we wanted you to know that what was taken from us wasn't just things. It was our sense of safety in our own home memories we can't replace." I apologized for my unknowing part in their violation, explaining how betrayed I felt by my own sister. To my surprise, sharing our mutual experiences of trust violated created a connection I hadn't anticipated. Over time, I met with other victims, each conversation helping me understand the ripple effects of Amanda's crimes, while also helping them see the human cost to families of those who commit crimes. These conversations became an important part of my healing journey. Throughout this process, I've had to confront difficult truths about family loyalty and integrity. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for healthy relationships. I've discovered that trusting my instincts when something feels wrong isn't being paranoid, it's self-preservation. And most importantly, I've realized that choosing integrity over blind loyalty takes tremendous courage, especially when it means standing up to those we love. My relationship with Amanda is complicated now. I visit her in prison, occasionally maintaining boundaries, while offering the compassion of sisterhood. Our conversations are tentative, rebuilding from the ground up. She's participating in therapy and educational programs, showing signs of reflection I never saw before. Last month, I received a letter from her that felt different from her previous communications. Instead of justifications or subtle blame, she wrote about her growing understanding of the harm she'd caused. "I never considered the people whose homes we entered as real people with feelings and fears," she wrote. "They were just symbols of what I wanted but couldn't have. I'm starting to see now how much damage I did, not just to them, but to you, to our parents, to myself. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm truly sorry for betraying you." It was the first time her apology didn't feel like manipulation. I'm cautiously hopeful that she's finding her way toward genuine remorse and change. Whether our relationship can ever fully heal remains to be seen, but I'm open to the possibility while protecting my own well-being. This journey has taught me that sometimes the most painful betrayals can lead to the most profound growth. I'm stronger now, more discerning but not hardened. I've learned to balance openness with healthy skepticism, compassion with self-protection. Most importantly, I've discovered my own resilience, the capacity to face heartbreaking truth and still move forward with hope. Have you ever had to choose between loyalty to someone you love and staying true to your own values? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest growth. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming betrayal and finding strength in unexpected places. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, trust should be given carefully, but when it's broken, it doesn't mean you're broken too. My name is Chandra, I'm 28 years old, and my wedding day turned into a nightmare when I walked down the aisle alone. The empty chairs on my side of the venue told the whole story. Not a single family member showed up, not even my father who had promised to walk me down the aisle. They all chose my sister's baby shower instead. What I did next changed everything. I posted just one photo on Instagram, and within an hour, my phone exploded with 30 missed calls and texts. Where are you watching from today? Hit subscribe if you've ever felt abandoned by family when you needed them most, and stay with me as I reveal what happened after I finally stood up for myself. Growing up in Boston, I always felt like I was living in my younger sister Natalie's shadow. From the moment she was born when I was 4 years old, it seemed like my parents, Alan and Diane, had found their favorite child. While that might sound like typical sibling jealousy, the pattern was consistent and unmistakable throughout our childhood. When I brought home straight, as my father would nod and say, "Good job," but when Natalie brought home a B+, there would be celebrations and ice cream trips. My mother would take dozens of photos at Natalie's soccer games, where she mostly sat on the bench, but missed my debate team championships where I placed first in the state. It wasn't that they were cruel or neglectful, just that their eyes lit up differently for her. "Natalie needs more support," my mother would say, whenever I pointed out the disparity. "You're naturally gifted, Chandra. You don't need as much encouragement." Those words stung more than she knew. Everyone needs encouragement, especially from their parents. Despite the lack of parental enthusiasm, I threw myself into academics and extracurricular activities. I graduated top of my class in high school and earned a scholarship to study architecture at a prestigious university. My graduation ceremony from college was held on the same day as Natalie's high school prom. My parents attended her prom photo session and arrived at my graduation just as it was ending. I pretended it didn't hurt. After college, I secured a position at a well-respected architecture firm in Boston. I worked long hours and quickly moved up the ranks, eventually becoming one of the youngest project leads in the company's history. My parents mentioned it briefly during a family dinner, then spent an hour discussing Natalie's decision to change her college major for the third time. It was during this chapter of my life that I met Jackson. Not at a networking event or through mutual friends as you might expect, but at a small coffee shop during a thunderstorm. I had ducked in to escape the downpour completely drenched and irritated because I'd forgotten my umbrella despite the weather forecast. Jackson was sitting alone by the window working on his laptop. When I entered dripping water everywhere, he immediately offered me his extra napkins and his untouched hot chocolate. His kindness in that small moment stood out against the gray day. We ended up talking until the coffee shop closed, the rain, long forgotten. Jackson was different from anyone I'd dated before. He listened intently when I spoke, remembered the small details, and showed up consistently. His family embraced me from our first meeting. His mother Martha calling me sweetheart, and his father Thomas telling embarrassing stories about Jackson's childhood with the same pride my parents reserved for Natalie. Our relationship progressed naturally over 3 years. Jackson, a pediatric physical therapist, understood family dynamics from both his professional and personal life. He noticed how my parents treated me but never pushed me to confront them, simply offering a steady presence and validation when I needed it. The proposal happened at the same coffee shop where we first met. Jackson arranged for them to reserve our original table by the window. It was raining again, a perfect callback to our first meeting. When he got down on one knee, he said, Some people see rain as gloomy, but I'll always see it as the weather that brought me to you. I cried as I said yes, and the other customers applauded. I called my parents immediately after, hoping they would share my joy. My mother's first response was, "Have you told Natalie yet? You know how sensitive she is about being single." Still, they seemed genuinely happy for me, and my father even said, "I can't wait to walk my little girl down the aisle." It was one of the few times he had ever referred to me as his little girl, and it meant everything to me. The wedding planning started with such promise. My mother actually accompanied me to look at the first venue, though she spent most of the time on the phone with Natalie discussing her roommate troubles. My father assured me he would help with some of the costs, though the check always seemed to be coming next week. Jackson's parents stepped in without being asked, covering the deposit on our dream venue when my father's promised funds didn't materialize. "We're gaining a daughter," Martha said warmly. "This is our celebration too." As the months of planning continued, I held on to the hope that my wedding would finally be the occasion where I felt truly centered in my family's attention. I cherished my father's promise to walk me down the aisle, imagining that special moment I'd seen in so many movies and at friends' weddings. For once, I would be the daughter in the spotlight, if only for one day. Little did I know how quickly that dream would shatter. The first major warning sign came during our engagement dinner. Jackson and I had reserved a private room at an upscale restaurant in Boston, inviting both our families to celebrate together. His parents arrived with gifts and cards. My parents arrived 20 minutes late with Natalie in tow, though she hadn't been explicitly invited to this small gathering. The dinner started pleasantly enough. Jackson's father made a beautiful toast about welcoming me to their family. My father followed with a few generic words about marriage that could have applied to anyone. Just as we were about to order dessert, Natalie cleared her throat dramatically. "Since everyone important to me is here," she announced, her hand moving to rest on her still flat stomach. "I wanted to share some exciting news. I'm pregnant." The table fell silent for a moment before my mother shrieked with joy. My father's face lit up in a way I'd rarely seen, and he immediately stood to hug Natalie. "I'm going to be a grandfather," he exclaimed completely, forgetting that the dinner was supposed to be celebrating my engagement. Jackson squeezed my hand under the table as my engagement dinner swiftly transformed into a pregnancy celebration. My mother peppered Natalie with questions about due dates and symptoms, while my father called the waiter over to order champagne for everyone except Natalie, because we're celebrating a new addition to the family. Not my upcoming marriage, a new addition. Jackson's parents exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly noticing how quickly I'd been sidelined. His mother, Martha, made several attempts to bring the conversation back to wedding plans, but each attempt was swiftly derailed by more baby talk. "It's fine," I whispered to Jackson as we drove home later that night. "They're excited. It's their first grandchild." "It was your night," he replied quietly. "They could have waited to share that news." I brushed it off, but it was the first in a series of disappointments that would follow. When I scheduled an appointment to go wedding dress shopping, my mother initially agreed to come. The day before, she called to cancel because Natalie was experiencing morning sickness and needed someone to drive her to a doctor's appointment. "You understand, right? You've always been so independent, Chandra. Take your friend Taylor instead." Taylor, my best friend since college and maid of honor, noticed the pattern immediately. After a third canceled planning session, when my mother and sister were supposed to help with selecting invitations, Taylor finally spoke up. "Chan, I need to say something as your friend. I'm worried about how your family is treating you. This is your wedding, but they're acting like it's an inconvenience compared to Natalie's pregnancy." "Pregnancies are a big deal," I defended, automatically the response, so ingrained after years of making excuses for my family. "And it's her first baby." "And this is your first and hopefully only wedding," Taylor countered firmly. "Both are special milestones. Both deserve celebration and attention. You're not asking for the moon just for your family to show up for you." Jackson expressed similar concerns as the pattern continued. When my parents missed our menu tasting because Natalie wanted company for her first ultrasound, he gently suggested that perhaps I needed to be more direct about my expectations. Your feelings matter too, Chandra, he said as we lay in bed that night. You're allowed to want your parents' attention and support, especially now. They'll be there for the important parts, I assured him and myself. My dad promised he'd walk me down the aisle. That's what really matters to me. Then came the phone call that changed everything. 3 months before our wedding date, with deposits paid, an invitation sent, Natalie called me directly, which was unusual in itself. Chandra, I wanted to let you know before Mom tells you. I've scheduled my baby shower for June 15th. My heart dropped. Natalie, that's my wedding day. You know that. Is it? She replied with an unconvincing, surprised tone. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize. My pregnancy brain is so bad lately. But unfortunately, it's the only day the venue I want is available, and I've already put down the deposit. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Natalie, we sent you a save the date card 6 months ago. You RSVP'd yes to the formal invitation last month. There's no way you forgot. Well, what do you want me to do, Chandra? Lose my deposit? This pregnancy hasn't been easy, you know. I need something special to look forward to. I want you to change the date, I said firmly. My wedding is that day. I've been planning it for almost a year. You're being selfish, she snapped. This is your niece or nephew we're talking about. A new life coming into the world is more important than a party. I called my parents immediately, after certain they would set Natalie straight. Instead, I encountered a united front. Honey, we know it's not ideal, my mother said soothingly, but Natalie is in a very delicate state right now. The doctor says her stress levels need to stay low for the baby's sake. What about my stress levels? I asked incredulously. It's my wedding day. You've always been stronger than your sister, my father chimed in. And to be completely honest, Chandra, a baby shower is a once-in-a-lifetime event for our first grandchild. And my wedding isn't a once-in-a-lifetime event for your daughter. I shot back, tears forming. There was a pause before my father responded. That's not what I meant. Of course, your wedding is important too, but not as important as Natalie. Again, I finished for him. We were hoping you'd understand, my mother said softly. Family has to come first. I hung up the phone and cried in Jackson's arms that night. They're not coming, I sobbed. None of them. Not even my dad, who promised to walk me down the aisle. Jackson held me tightly. Then we'll have the most beautiful wedding surrounded by people who truly value you. And I'll be waiting at the end of that aisle no matter what. In the weeks that followed, I made several more attempts to reason with my family. I offered to help Natalie reschedule, even offering to pay any lost deposits. I sent heartfelt emails to my parents, explaining how much their presence meant to me. Each attempt was met with the same response: Natalie's needs came first. Always. A week before the wedding, I made one final call to my father. Dad, please. Just you. Come walk me down the aisle as you promised. You can go to the baby shower right after the ceremony. His sigh told me everything before he even spoke. I'm sorry, Chandra. Your mother and sister need me there. You'll be fine. You've always been the independent one. As I hung up the phone, I realized Taylor and Jackson had been right all along. This wasn't about scheduling conflicts or pregnancy hormones. This was the same pattern that had defined my entire life, now crystallized into one unmistakable message: I would always come second. The morning of my wedding day dawned with clear blue skies and a gentle June breeze, perfect weather that seemed almost cruel given the storm inside me. I woke up in the hotel suite, surrounded by my bridesmaids, Taylor, already up and organizing everyone with her typical efficiency. My phone sat on the nightstand screen, disappointingly dark with no new messages. Any word? Taylor asked quietly, handing me a cup of coffee. I shook my head, trying to mask the pain. Nothing. Their loss, she said, firmly squeezing my shoulder. Today is still your day. We're going to make it beautiful. The makeup artist and hairstylist arrived, filling the suite with cheerful chatter as they transformed us one by one. I forced smiles during the getting ready photos, pushed down the lump in my throat when Taylor helped me into my dress, a gorgeous A-line with delicate lace, detailing that I'd chosen months ago, imagining my father's proud face when he saw me in it. Every few minutes, I found myself checking my phone, hoping for a last-minute message. Maybe my father had changed his mind. Maybe they would surprise me and show up anyway. The rational part of me knew better, but hope is a stubborn thing. Jackson's mother, Martha, came to the suite mid-morning bringing a beautiful hairpin that had belonged to her grandmother. "Something borrowed," she said, tears in her eyes, as she carefully placed it in my hair. "You look absolutely stunning, Chandra. I am so proud to have you joining our family today." Her kindness nearly broke me. This was how a mother should act on her child's wedding day. As the hours ticked by and the ceremony time approached, the absence of my family became an increasingly heavy weight. The wedding coordinator kept asking if we should wait a few more minutes, not understanding when I firmly said no, they wouldn't be coming. The final blow came when Taylor's phone chimed with a social media notification. She tried to hide it, but I glimpsed the screen. Natalie had just posted photos from her baby shower. My mother was there in a new dress I'd never seen, beaming proudly. My father stood beside them, champagne glass raised in a toast. Their smiles were carefree, without a hint of regret or conflict. "Let me see," I said, holding out my hand. "Chan, don't do this to yourself right now," Taylor pleaded. "Please," I insisted. "I need to see it." She reluctantly handed over her phone. There they were, my family celebrating joyfully just across town, while I prepared to walk down the aisle alone. The caption under the photo read, "Nothing more important than family celebrating new life with our precious Natalie. Number blessed grandparents to be true." The pain was breathtaking, like someone had punched through my chest. After all the years of being second best, this final rejection on what should have been one of the most important days of my life felt like the ultimate betrayal. I handed Taylor back her phone, took a deep breath, and straightened my shoulders. "Let's do this." "Who's going to walk with you?" the coordinator asked, clipboard in hand, clearly uncomfortable with the empty slot where father of the bride should have been. "I'll walk myself," I said firmly. "I've been doing it my whole life anyway." The ceremony was set in a garden venue, with rows of white chairs divided by an aisle strewn with rose petals. As I stood at the entrance, I could see Jackson waiting at the altar, handsome in his suit, his expression a mix of love and concern as he searched my face. The music began and my bridesmaids proceeded one by one. Then it was my turn. I took my first step alone, painfully aware of the empty chairs on the left side of the venue, where my family should have been sitting. The right side was filled with Jackson's relatives, all smiling encouragingly at me. With each step, I felt everyone's eyes, their pitying glances, as they noted the absence of anyone walking beside me. I heard the whispers, saw the confused looks, as guests realized there wasn't a single person seated in the family of the bride section. Halfway down the aisle, my vision blurred with unshed tears. I faltered slightly, and in that moment, Thomas Jackson's father stood up from his seat in the front row. He didn't walk to me or take my arm, seeming to understand instinctively that I needed to do this myself, but he placed his hand over his heart and nodded at me with such genuine affection that I found the strength to continue. When I reached Jackson, he took both my hands in his thumbs gently wiping away the tears that had escaped despite my best efforts. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered too quietly for anyone else to hear. "Never again." The ceremony itself was beautiful. We had written our own vows, and Jackson's voice broke with emotion as he promised to always put me first, to be the family I deserved. The significance of his words wasn't lost on anyone present. During the reception, Thomas gave a toast that carefully avoided mentioning my absent family, but spoke eloquently about chosen family and the strength it takes to break cycles. Martha danced with Jackson for the mother-son dance, and then, in a gesture that made me cry all over again, she asked if I would join her for a special dance as well. "Every bride deserves a parent's embrace on her wedding day," she said as we swayed to the music, her arms around me warm and secure. Throughout the evening, Taylor kept me distracted and surrounded by friends who genuinely cared about me. But in quiet moments, I couldn't help checking my phone, finding still no messages from my parents or sister. Instead, through mutual friends' social media, I saw more updates from the baby shower happening concurrently across town, a parallel celebration where I wasn't missed at all. The final blow came during the bouquet toss. As I prepared to throw my flowers, I turned and saw the small crowd of single women gathering behind me. Among them should have been Natalie despite her pregnancy. This should have been a moment of sisterly joy, the kind of memory that would have made a perfect photo for our future children to see someday. Instead, there was just an empty space where my family should have been. Taylor's been taking photos of everything, Jackson said softly as we drove back to our hotel that night. We'll have beautiful memories to look back on. I nodded, too emotionally exhausted to speak. My wedding day had been beautiful in many ways, filled with love from friends and Jackson's family. But the ache of my family's complete abandonment had cast a shadow I couldn't quite escape. As I fell asleep in Jackson's arms that night, officially his wife but feeling orphaned in a way I had never allowed myself to acknowledge before I made a decision, I was done making excuses for people who consistently showed me I wasn't a priority. Tomorrow would be the first day of my new life with new boundaries and a new understanding of what family truly meant. I woke the morning after my wedding to sunlight streaming through hotel curtains and Jackson's arm draped protectively around me. For one blissful moment, I forgot everything except that I was now married to the man I loved. Then reality crashed back as I reached for my phone and saw the screen, no missed calls, no text messages from my family. Not a single congratulations, not even a how did it go nothing. Jackson stirred beside me. Any word he asked softly, immediately understanding my expression. I shook my head. Nothing. He pulled me closer. Let's start the honeymoon early. The flight to Hawaii isn't until tomorrow, but I can call and see if we can get on a flight today instead. Let's just get away from here. The idea was tempting. Escape to a tropical paradise put thousands of miles between myself and this pain. But something inside me had shifted. For years I had swallowed my hurt, made excuses for my family's behavior, and pretended their actions didn't wound me deeply. I had been complicit in my own erasure. Before we go, I said slowly, there's something I need to do. I scrolled through the photos Taylor had already shared with me from the wedding. She was an excellent photographer, in addition to being my best friend, and had captured the day beautifully, despite its undercurrent of sadness. I stopped on one particular image that made my breath catch. It showed me from behind walking down the aisle alone in my white dress. The empty chairs on the left side of the venue were clearly visible, a stark contrast to the filled seats on Jackson's side. My posture in the photo was straight, my head held high despite everything, walking toward Jackson, who stood waiting with unmistakable love in his eyes. It was painful and beautiful all at once. It told the whole story without a single word. This one, I said, showing Jackson. This is the one. What are you going to do? He asked, concern evident in his voice. What I should have done years ago. Tell the truth. I opened Instagram and uploaded the photo. Then I wrote a caption that came straight from my heart. Yesterday, I walked alone toward my future husband, while every chair on my side remained empty. My entire family chose my sister's baby shower instead. Thank you to everyone who did show up. You're my true family now. My finger hovered over the share button for several seconds. This wasn't about revenge or public shaming. This was about finally acknowledging my own pain, refusing to pretend anymore, and maybe, just maybe, helping someone else feel less alone if they were experiencing something similar. I pressed share, then immediately turned off my phone. Let's go get breakfast, I suggested to Jackson. Then we can see about that early flight. We enjoyed a quiet breakfast at the hotel restaurant, talking about our honeymoon plans and deliberately avoiding the subject of my family. Afterward, as we walked through the lobby toward the elevators, I realized I would need my phone to make travel arrangements. I should probably turn it back on, I said reluctantly. Jackson squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, we're in this together now. When my phone powered up, it immediately began buzzing continuously with notifications. 37 missed calls. Dozens of text messages, hundreds of Instagram notifications. The missed calls were from my parents, Natalie, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my grandmother, who rarely used her cell phone. The text messages ranged from my father's angry, "Call me immediately," to my mother's tearful, "How could you embarrass us publicly like this?" to Natalie's dramatic, "You've ruined everything. Everyone is attacking me because of you." There were also messages from extended family members. I rarely heard from many expressing shock at learning what had happened and offering belated congratulations and support. My Instagram post had gone somewhat viral among my extended network. People were tagging my family members, expressing outrage on my behalf. Friends from high school and college I hadn't spoken to in years were sending supportive messages. Even some of my parents' friends were commenting with disapproval of their actions. "Oh my God," I whispered, scrolling through the cascade of responses. "Are you okay?" Jackson asked, guiding me to a quiet corner of the lobby. "I didn't expect this," I admitted. "I just wanted to be honest for once." "Sometimes the truth is powerful," he said, "especially when it's been buried for so long." One text from my father particularly stood out. "You need to take down that post immediately. People are calling us asking why we missed your wedding. Your mother is in tears. This is so selfish of you." Selfish, the word they had always used to make me feel guilty for having needs or expectations, for wanting my parents to attend my college graduation, for hoping they would help with wedding planning, for expecting them to show up on my wedding day. I turned off my phone again and looked at Jackson. "Let's go to Hawaii. Today." He smiled and kissed my forehead. "I'll make it happen." 4 hours later, we were at the airport, boarding passes in hand, for a flight that would take us away from Boston and the storm my single moment of honesty had created. As we waited at the gate, I turned my phone on one more time to check our hotel reservation details. The barrage continued. Now there were over 50 missed calls and so many text messages my phone was struggling to load them all. My post had been shared widely, with friends of friends expressing support and sharing their own stories of family disappointment. Most surprisingly, my mother's sister, Aunt Julia, who had always been quiet and diplomatic during family gatherings, had posted publicly, "As Chandra's aunt, I am heartbroken and ashamed of my sister's family today. No baby shower is more important than your daughter's wedding day. Chandra, I should have been there. I'm so sorry I followed along instead of standing up for what was right." Before boarding, I sent one text to Taylor, taking an early flight to Hawaii. "We'll be off-grid for a while. Thank you for everything yesterday." Then I turned off my phone, took Jackson's hand, and boarded the plane that would carry us away from the family that had failed me and toward the beginning of the family we would create together. The Hawaiian sun felt like healing as we stepped off the plane in Maui. The air was thick with the scent of plumeria and salt, so different from the tension-filled atmosphere we'd left behind in Boston. Jackson had managed to get our resort to accommodate our early arrival, and as we were driven to the beachfront property, I felt the tight knot in my chest begin to loosen for the first time in days. "No phones," Jackson suggested as we settled into our suite, the sound of waves crashing outside our balcony. "At least for the first few days. Let's just be present with each other." I agreed readily. The thought of facing the continuing fallout from my Instagram post was exhausting. I needed this space to process what had happened and what it meant for my future. Our first day was spent entirely on the beach, letting the rhythm of the ocean wash away the pain of the previous days. We swam in the crystal-clear water, napped under palm trees, and drank tropical cocktails as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink. Not once did Jackson bring up my family, unless I mentioned them first, giving me the space to either discuss or ignore the situation as I needed. On our second evening, as we walked along the shoreline after dinner, I finally felt ready to talk. "I keep thinking about all those empty chairs," I said, my feet sinking into the cool sand. "All my life I've been trying to fill those empty spaces with their approval, with any scrap of attention they would give me." Jackson listened quietly, his hand warm in mine. "But yesterday, watching the sunset over the ocean, I had this realization," I continued. "Those chairs don't have to stay empty. I get to choose who sits in them now. People like Taylor, like your parents, like the friends who showed up and celebrated with us. That's a powerful way to look at it, Jackson said softly. I've spent my whole life trying to earn my place in my family, I said, stopping to face the ocean, making myself smaller, accepting less, never questioning why Natalie always came first. I thought if I just achieved enough, if I was just perfect enough, eventually they would see me. You shouldn't have had to earn their love, Jackson said, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. No, I shouldn't have. I agreed, the words feeling revolutionary as they left my mouth. And I'm done trying. Each day of our honeymoon became a ritual of healing. Morning walks on the beach where I would speak aloud the things I had always kept inside. Afternoon adventures, where we snorkeled with sea turtles or hiked to waterfalls, reminding me how vast and beautiful the world was, beyond the narrow confines of my family's approval. Evening conversations under the stars where Jackson and I talked about the family we wanted to create someday, one built on mutual respect and unconditional love. After 3 days, I finally turned my phone back on, bracing myself for the continued onslaught. There were indeed more messages, but the initial storm had calmed somewhat. Taylor had sent daily updates, keeping me informed without requiring my response. Your post now has over 3,000 likes, she texted. People are still commenting with support. Your cousin Sam posted about how he missed his own sister's wedding for a concert once, and your post made him call and apologize to her after 5 years of not speaking. Another message from her read, Your Aunt Julia came by the apartment to drop off a wedding gift. She was in tears, said she's been enabling your parents' favoritism for years, and wants to make it right. The most surprising update came on our 5th day in Hawaii. Your mother's best friend Barbara called her out publicly at their book club. Apparently, Barbara had always thought the way they treated you was wrong, and your post was the last straw. It was strange to realize that others had seen the pattern all along, but like me, had remained silent to keep the peace. My small act of truth-telling had somehow given permission for others to speak up too. During our 2nd week in Hawaii, we met another couple close to our age during a group sailing excursion. After a day of shared adventure, we had dinner together at the resort restaurant. Somehow the conversation turned to families, and I found myself sharing a condensed version of what had happened at our wedding. My brother didn't come to my wedding either, the woman Alicia shared after I finished my story. Different circumstances, but the same pain. It's like there's this perfect vision of family we're all supposed to pretend exists, even when our reality is nothing like it. How did you handle it? I asked, realizing this was the first time I'd spoken to someone who truly understood. Not nearly as bravely as you, she smiled. I pretended it didn't hurt for years. It wasn't until I started therapy that I finally acknowledged how much his absence affected me. Her husband nodded. Family estrangement is so much more common than people realize, but nobody talks about it. Everyone's busy putting up the perfect family facade on social media. Except Chandra Jackson said, squeezing my hand proudly. She told the truth. It wasn't brave, I admitted. It was just necessary. For my own sanity. That's what courage is, Alicia said. Doing the necessary thing even when it's terrifying. That conversation was a turning point for me. Hearing someone else validate my experience made me realize I wasn't alone, wasn't overly sensitive, wasn't wrong for feeling hurt. The problem wasn't me. It never had been. Each evening before bed, I developed a new habit. I would stand on our balcony overlooking the ocean and consciously release one more expectation, one more hope that my family would somehow transform into the loving, supportive unit I had always craved. It was a kind of grief process, acknowledging what I had never had and likely never would. As our honeymoon neared its end, I received a call from Taylor that I finally felt strong enough to answer. How's paradise? She asked, her voice a welcome connection to home. It's been healing, I told her. How are things there? Interesting, she said. Your post really stirred things up. Your dad's sister called him out at a family dinner last weekend. Apparently she's been watching how they treat you for years and finally had enough. And your cousins from your mom's side have been reaching out saying they want to reconnect with you when you're back. and my parents I asked, not sure what answer I was hoping for. Radio silence publicly, Taylor replied. But your Aunt Julia says they're freaking out about the family reputation. People keep asking questions they can't answer without looking terrible. After we hung up, I rejoined Jackson on the beach for our last Hawaiian sunset. Do you regret posting it? He asked, as we watched the sun sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues. I considered the question carefully. No, I finally said. For the first time in my life, I spoke my truth without minimizing it to protect their feelings. It hurts that it took something so public for people to see what was happening, but I don't regret it. I'm proud of you, he said simply. As we packed our bags the next day, preparing to return to Boston and whatever awaited us there, I realized I was different. The woman flying home was not the same one who had walked down the aisle alone 2 weeks earlier. She was stronger, clearer about her worth, and unwilling to accept scraps of affection where a feast should have been. I was ready to face my family, not with anger or vengeance, but with firm boundaries and a new understanding of what I deserved. We returned to our apartment in Boston on a Sunday afternoon, both tanned from the Hawaiian sun and refreshed despite the knowledge that reality awaited. As Jackson unlocked our door, I was surprised to find the entryway filled with flower arrangements, gift baskets, and packages wrapped in wedding paper. What is all this? I asked, stepping carefully around a particularly large bouquet. Jackson picked up a card from the nearest arrangement. From your Aunt Julia, he read. It says, I should have spoken up years ago. I hope you can forgive me. Your wedding was one day, but I promise to be there for all the days that follow. Another card from my father's brother read, Your courage made me reflect on how I've been complacent in family dynamics that hurt you. I'm sorry. There were gifts from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, friends of my parents expressing their support, and even a few of my mother's book club members. It was overwhelming and validating all at once. We spent the evening unpacking and sorting through the unexpected bounty, both touched by the outpouring of support and wary of what it meant for my relationship with my immediate family, which remained unresolved. That question was answered the very next day when the doorbell rang around 6 in the evening. Jackson peered through the peephole and turned to me with a grim expression. It's your parents, and Natalie. My heart raced. All of them. He nodded. Do you want me to send them away? You don't have to do this now. I took a deep breath, feeling the strength I'd cultivated in Hawaii. No, it's time. Jackson squeezed my hand. I'll be right beside you. Actually, I said, surprising myself. I think I need to handle this myself. But stay close. He nodded, understanding as always. I'll be in the bedroom. Just call if you need me. When I opened the door, the sight of my family standing awkwardly in the hallway was jarring. My mother looked like she hadn't slept in days, her usually perfect hair disheveled. My father stood slightly behind her, his expression a mixture of anger and discomfort. Natalie, now visibly pregnant at 5 months, had clearly been crying, her eyes red and puffy. Can we come in? My mother asked, her voice unusually timid. I stepped aside wordlessly, allowing them to enter the living room. No one moved to hug me or offer congratulations on my recent marriage. Instead, they sat stiffly on our couch, an unmistakable tension filling the room. You need to take down that post, my father said, immediately bypassing any greeting. People are calling us asking questions. Your mother can't even go to her book club anymore without being interrogated. I sat in the armchair across from them, keeping physical distance that matched the emotional gulf between us. Hello to you too, Dad. Yes, my honeymoon was lovely, thank you for asking. My mother flinched at the calm sarcasm in my voice. This was not the Chandra they were used to, the one who accommodated and apologized even when she'd done nothing wrong. Chandra, please, my mother pleaded. That photo, it makes us look terrible. It's just the truth, I replied evenly. I walked down the aisle alone because my entire family chose to attend a baby shower instead of my wedding. How exactly would you prefer I frame that? You're deliberately trying to turn people against us, Natalie interjected, her hand protectively, covering her baby bump. Do you know I've gotten hate messages, people calling me a horrible sister? The stress isn't good for the baby. I looked at my sister, really looked at her perhaps for the first time, seeing her not as the golden child who had everything handed to her, but as someone so accustomed to being the center of attention that she literally couldn't lesen eine Kuchen, comprehend why her baby shower shouldn't take precedence over my wedding. I didn't ask anyone to send you messages, Natalie. I simply shared my experience. You could have handled this privately, my father argued. Instead, you chose to air family business to the world. That's not how we raised you. How you raised me, I repeated, a disbelieving laugh escaping me. You mean constantly teaching me that my needs, my achievements, my special moments would always come second to Natalie's. That particular lesson came through loud and clear my entire life. That's not fair, my mother protested weakly. We love both our daughters equally. No, you don't, I said plainly, the words I had swallowed for decades finally finding voice. You never have. And I spent my whole life making excuses for it, pretending it didn't hurt, shrinking myself to avoid being accused of jealousy or selfishness. But when not a single one of you showed up to my wedding, something broke in me. I couldn't pretend anymore. Natalie burst into tears. I didn't mean to schedule my shower on your wedding day, she sobbed. I wanted my special day too. You were getting all this attention with your wedding planning, and I felt left out. I stared at her in disbelief. Left out, Natalie? Mom canceled on my dress shopping to drive you to a routine checkup. Dad never sent the check he promised for the venue deposit. Every family dinner for months has revolved around your pregnancy. What attention exactly do you think I was getting? You've always been the successful one, she sniffled. The perfect grades, the great career, the nice apartment. I finally had something special with this baby, and then you got engaged, and it was all about your wedding again. The realization hit me like a wave. In Natalie's distorted perception, I was the favored one because of my achievements, despite the fact that those achievements had come without parental support or recognition. Natalie, I said more gently, my accomplishments have come despite the lack of attention, not because of it. I worked hard because I learned early that was the only way I might earn your approval, I said, looking at my parents. But no achievement was ever quite enough, was it? My father shifted uncomfortably. We didn't come here to be attacked, Chandra. We came to resolve this situation. The post needs to come down, and we need to present a united front to the family. A united front, I repeated. Where was that unity when I was walking down the aisle alone? Where was family loyalty when I called you crying after you all chose Natalie's shower over my wedding? I'm your father, he said, his voice rising. I had family obligations. Yes, you did, I agreed calmly. To your daughter, on her wedding day. The obligation you explicitly promised to fulfill when you said you would walk me down the aisle. My mother began to cry softly. We made a mistake, Chandra. Is that what you want to hear? We made a terrible mistake. It wasn't a mistake, I corrected her. A mistake is forgetting to mail a card. A mistake is being late to dinner. Collectively deciding that my wedding day wasn't worth attending wasn't a mistake. It was a choice that perfectly represented how you've always treated me. So what do you want from us now? My father demanded. To grovel, to beg forgiveness, to admit we're terrible parents. I want you to stop pretending, I said firmly. Stop pretending you treat us equally. Stop pretending your actions don't hurt me. Stop pretending this is the first time you've chosen Natalie over me. Just stop pretending, and maybe we can build something real from there. The room fell silent. Jackson appeared briefly in the doorway, checking on me with a concerned expression. I gave him a small nod to indicate I was okay, and he retreated again, respecting my need to handle this myself. I never realized you felt this way, my mother finally said, her voice small. Why didn't you ever say anything? I tried, I reminded her. Every time I did, I was told I was being selfish or jealous or that Natalie needed more support. After a while, I stopped trying. My father, uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. The post makes us look like monsters. The post shows exactly what happened, I countered. If that makes you look like monsters, perhaps the problem isn't with the post. Natalie, who had been sniffling quietly, suddenly looked up. I was jealous, she admitted, surprising everyone. Not just of the wedding, of everything. You've always seemed so capable. So put together. Mom and Dad praised you to their friends about your achievements. Did you know that our Chandra the architect, our Chandra so independent? Meanwhile, I was the one who couldn't decide on a major, couldn't keep a job, couldn't even maintain a relationship long enough to have a proper father for my baby. Her confession stunned me. All these years, I had believed I was invisible to my parents, when in reality, they had been using my achievements to bolster their parental image while simultaneously withholding the actual support and recognition I craved. I scheduled the shower on your wedding day on purpose. Natalie continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I knew they would choose me. They always do. And I needed that win against you just once. The naked honesty of her admission left me speechless. My sister had deliberately orchestrated the most painful rejection of my life out of pure jealousy, and my parents had willingly participated. That's cruel, I finally managed. I know, she nodded, fresh tears falling. I'm sorry. I didn't think about how it would actually feel for you. I just wanted to be the center of attention. My father cleared his throat. What do you want from us now, Chandra? Tell us how to fix this. I took a deep breath, organizing my thoughts. I don't know if this can be fixed with one conversation. What I want is acknowledgement. Not just private acknowledgement in my living room, but the same public acknowledgement I had to use to be heard in the first place. You want us to post some kind of public apology? My father asked incredulously. I want you to be honest. With yourselves, with me, with everyone who's been asking questions. No more pretending we're the perfect family. No more pretending my feelings don't matter. And if we do this, my mother asked tentatively, what then? Then we start over, I said, slowly. With boundaries and honesty. I'm not cutting you out of my life, but I'm also not going back to the way things were. I deserve better, and if you want to be part of my life going forward, you'll need to accept that. They exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. My father looked like he wanted to argue further, but something in my expression must have told him it would be futile. Well, think about what you've said, he finally offered, standing up. This isn't easy for any of us. It never has been, I agreed quietly. As they prepared to leave, Natalie hung back while my parents headed to the door. For what it's worth, she said softly, your wedding dress was beautiful. I saw the photos Taylor posted. You looked really happy with Jackson. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, to heal the wound she'd deliberately inflicted. But it was something. A tiny crack in the perfect image she had always maintained of herself. Thank you, I said simply. After they left, Jackson emerged from the bedroom and held me as I processed the confrontation. You were amazing, he whispered into my hair. I'm so proud of you. It's not resolved, I said. Not really. No, he agreed. But it's a beginning. You spoke your truth, and for once they had to listen. As I lay in bed that night replaying the conversation, I realized something important. For the first time in my life, I had stood up to my family without backing down, without minimizing my pain to make them comfortable. Whether they chose to meet my requirements or not, I had finally valued myself enough to set boundaries. That alone was a victory worth celebrating. 6 months after our wedding, I sat in my therapist, Dr. Karen's office, describing my most recent interaction with my parents. The journey of healing had been neither straightforward nor easy, but I had committed to it, fully beginning therapy 2 weeks after the confrontation in our living room. They came to dinner last night, I told Dr. Karen, and for the first time my father actually asked me about my current project at work. Not just a cursory question, but with genuine interest. He asked follow-up questions. He remembered details from the last time we spoke about it. Dr. Karen smiled. That's significant progress. How did it feel? Strange, I admitted. Good but strange. Like putting on a pair of shoes you've always wanted but never thought would fit. The months following our confrontation had been turbulent. My parents had initially resisted my request for public acknowledgement, offering, instead, a private apology and a belated wedding gift. I had stood firm not out of vindictiveness but from the newfound understanding that patterns only change when they're brought into the light. 3 weeks after our confrontation, my father had finally posted a brief but honest statement on his rarely used Facebook account. Many have asked about our absence from Chandra's wedding. The truth is, we made a terrible choice to attend another event instead. There is no excuse for missing our daughter's wedding day. We are working to earn her forgiveness and be better parents going forward. It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but it was a start. More importantly, it was the first time in my life my father had publicly acknowledged a wrong against me. Jackson and I had created new traditions in our first months of marriage. Sunday brunches with friends who had become family. Monthly dinner parties where everyone was genuinely celebrated. A standing Thursday night video call with his parents, who continued to embrace me with a warmth and consistency I was still learning to accept without suspicion. "I've been thinking about your sister's baby shower," Dr. Karan said, bringing me back to our session. "Have you had any contact with her since the baby was born?" Natalie had given birth to a daughter 3 months after our wedding. I had sent a gift, a beautiful handcrafted mobile for the nursery with a simple card. "Congratulations on your daughter. Wishing you both well." "We've seen each other twice," I replied. "Both times at my parents' house for brief visits. It's awkward. She tries too hard now, keeps offering to show me baby pictures or have me hold Lily. I think she's genuinely trying, but there's so much unresolved between us." "And how do you feel about becoming an aunt despite everything?" I considered the question carefully. "Separate," I finally said. "I separate my feelings about Lily from my feelings about Natalie. The baby is innocent in all this. I want to be a good aunt to her. But I'm not ready to pretend everything is fine with my sister." My relationship with Natalie remained the most complicated aspect of my family dynamics. Her deliberate scheduling of her baby shower on my wedding day had been the most overt act of sabotage, and though she had admitted to it, true reconciliation still felt distant. We were civil when we interacted, careful around each other in a way that highlighted, rather than disguised, the damage between us. Outside of family healing, my life had taken some unexpected positive turns. The Instagram post that had started as a simple act of truth-telling had resonated with more people than I could have imagined. Comments and private messages continued to arrive from people sharing similar experiences of family estrangement or disappointment. After reading hundreds of these messages, I had started a private online support group for people navigating complex family relationships. What began as a small forum for sharing experiences had grown to over 300 members, each finding solidarity and validation in the shared understanding that family relationships weren't always what greeting cards and movies portrayed them to be. "Taylor thinks I should start a podcast," I told Dr. Karen with a small laugh, "about family estrangement and reconciliation. She says my story could help people." "What do you think about that idea?" she asked. Part of me worries it would be seen as exploiting a painful situation. Another part thinks that the silence around these issues is what allows them to continue. If I'd known earlier that other people experienced similar family dynamics, maybe I wouldn't have spent so many years thinking I was the problem. "That's very insightful," Dr. Karen nodded. "There's power in breaking silence, as you've already discovered." My father had made the most surprising progress in our family's healing journey. A month after his Facebook post, he had asked to meet me for coffee alone. Sitting across from him in a quiet cafe, he had struggled visibly before finally saying words I never thought I'd hear. "I've favored your sister your entire life," he admitted, staring into his coffee cup. "I didn't want to see it, but after everything that happened, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Looking back at decisions I made, moments I missed. You're right. It wasn't fair to you." Why, I had asked simply the question I'd wanted to ask my entire life. He was silent for a long moment. "Natalie reminded me of my mother," he finally said. "The same temperament, the same need for attention and validation. My mother died when I was in college, and when Natalie was born, it was like getting a piece of my mother back. I didn't realize I was doing it at first. By the time I did, the pattern was set and it was easier to continue than to admit I'd been unfair. It wasn't a complete explanation or excuse, but it was honest in a way my father had never been with me before. That conversation had been the first step toward a new, more authentic relationship between us. My mother had been slower to change, still occasionally slipping into old patterns of minimizing my feelings or centering Natalie in our conversations. But she was trying attending therapy herself at my father's surprising suggestion. "Your wedding photo is on their mantel now," Taylor had reported after a rare visit to my parents' home to drop off something for me. "Right in the center where the family portrait used to be. The one with just your sister's graduation, but not yours." These small signs of effort and change were healing in their own way, though I maintained careful boundaries protecting the peace and self-worth I had fought so hard to establish. Jackson had been my constant support throughout, never pushing me toward forgiveness before I was ready, never suggesting I should simply move on for the sake of family harmony. He celebrated my small victories and held me through setbacks, understanding that healing wasn't linear. "What are you most proud of in these past 6 months?" Dr. Karen asked as our session neared its end. I thought about it, reflecting on the journey since that solitary walk down the aisle. "That I finally valued myself enough to tell the truth," I said, "not just to my family but to myself. I spent so many years accepting less than I deserved, making myself smaller to avoid rocking the boat. When I posted that wedding photo, it wasn't just about calling them out. It was about acknowledging my own pain as valid and real. And that's perhaps the most important healing of all," she smiled. As I left the therapy office and walked to my car, my phone chimed with a text from Jackson. "Dinner with Thomas and Martha tonight. They're in town for the weekend and dying to see you." I smiled, typing back, "Absolutely, can't wait to see them." The family I had found and chosen had proven stronger and more nurturing than the one I was born into. While I continued to work on healing my relationship with my parents and sister, I no longer viewed that healing as the only path to family connection. I had created a circle of love and support around myself, people who showed up consistently, who celebrated my successes without jealousy, who held space for my feelings without minimizing them. 6 months after my wedding day, I could look at that photo of myself walking alone down the aisle and see not just abandonment but strength, not just absence but possibility, not just an ending but a beginning. The chairs on my side of the aisle had been empty that day, but in the life Jackson and I were building together, no one would ever walk alone again. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself with family, even when it was painful? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes sharing our experiences helps others feel less alone in their struggles. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real conversations about family dynamics and healing. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember that your feelings are valid and you deserve to be treated with love and respect, especially by those who call themselves family.
My fiancé giggled. "You're too nice, that's why I can do whatever I want." I said, "Was too nice." Then, I had her car repossessed since it was in my name. She learned the difference between nice and stupid. I, 28 male, am watching a tow truck hook up to my ex-fiancé's BMW right now. She's inside her friend's place. No idea what's happening. Jasmine, 26, and I were together 3 years. When she showed interest, I felt like I'd won the lottery. The red flags were there. She'd forget her wallet, make plans with our money, but complain when I wanted to spend any. I told myself relationships need compromise. 8 months ago, she wanted a new car for a marketing job. Her old Honda was fine, but she wanted something professional. I'd saved $32,000 for a house down payment. Just think how good I'll look pulling up to client meetings. It's an investment in my career. She wore me down. I bought a 2021 BMW 3 Series, $38,000, put $15,000 down, financed the rest in MY name because her credit was shot. The deal was she'd make the monthly payments. Guess how many payments she's made in 6 months? 2. Last Thursday, I came home early with a headache. Found Jasmine with her friends Keisha and Mona Day drinking. I'm trying to rest when I hear. Keisha, girl, I still can't believe Roger bought you a whole BMW. Jasmine giggled. That specific giggle when she thinks she's clever. You gotta train them right. Roger's too nice. That's why I can do whatever I want. Mona, doesn't he get mad about the payments? Jasmine, he'll complain then get over it. What's he gonna do? Take the car back? Please. He doesn't have the balls. They laughed. My fiancé was bragging about playing me. Keisha, better lock that down before he grows a spine. Jasmine, oh, I will. Wedding's in 4 months. After that, half of everything is mine anyway, including that house down payment he's been saving. I felt sick. The casual cruelty. The calculation. She knew exactly what she was doing. After they left, Jasmine popped in. Hey, babe. Feeling better? Going to Keisha's. I just nodded. Then got to work. Called my lawyer buddy Terrell. Confirmed the car was legally mine. Changed the locks. Started packing her stuff in boxes. She came home at 11 p.m. Key wouldn't work. Babe, my key isn't working. Hello. This isn't funny, Roger. I opened the door. Your stuff's in boxes. We're done. What? Let me in. No. I heard you today. With your friends. I'm too nice, right? Let's see how that works out. Her face cycled through confusion, realization, panic, then manipulation. Babe, I was just talking shit. You know how it is. No, I don't sit around laughing about using my partner. What about my car? I smiled. My car? The one in my name? I'll handle it. You can't take my car. Should have thought about that before deciding I was too nice to do anything about it. I shut the door. She blew up my phone. I blocked her. Next morning, I reported the BMW stolen. Technically true since I revoked permission. Then called the lender for voluntary repo. That was 6 days ago. Today's the day. Update 1. The tow truck came and went. Professional driver. Check my ID. Done in 10 minutes. 45 minutes later, I hear screaming outside. Jasmine's in the empty parking spot. Phone out, waving her arms around. My phone rings. Unknown number. Voicemail. Roger, where is my CAR? I know you did something. Bring it back, or I'm calling the police. 20 minutes later, she's pounding on my door. I know you're in there. I'll call the police. Through the door. It's not your car. Never was. You bought it for me. I bought it for you to use. Big difference. I have a job. Uber exists. She starts kicking the door. You think you won? I'll ruin you. My neighbor Marcus opens his door. Everything all right? Jasmine spins on him. Mind your business. It is my business when you're disturbing the whole floor. Roger, you good? I'm good. She was just leaving. She storms off. An hour later, text from a new number, her mom. Roger, this is Diana. This is disappointing. She needs that car for work. I thought you were better than this. I respond, your daughter bragged about using me and planned to take half my money in divorce. The car was mine. Please don't contact me again. She's a young woman who made a mistake. You're ruining her life. Blocked. Then Emily creates a new Instagram to message me. I talked to a lawyer. What you did is illegal. I'm suing for the car and emotional distress. Screenshot and sent to Terrell. His response, LOL. Let her try. 8 p.m. my mom calls. What's going on? Jasmine says you stole her car. Ma, she was using me. I heard her admit it. The car was in my name. She said that to her friends while laughing about how I'm too nice to do anything about it. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Then I get an email from Jasmine's work address. Roger, I'm willing to forgive you and resume our relationship if 1. You retrieve my BMW immediately. 2. Apologize publicly on social media. 3. Attend couples counseling, you pay. 4. Put my name on the car title. 5. Postpone wedding but keep deposits. If you don't agree by tomorrow noon, I'll pursue legal action for theft, illegal eviction, emotional distress, defamation, and lost wages. Jasmine. I laughed and forwarded it to Terrell. Please tell me you're saving all this. Update 2. Noon came and went. I didn't respond. 12:15 p.m., voicemail from attorney Bradley Steinman, threatening charges if I don't return the car by 5 p.m. I Google him. No lawyer by that name exists. Forward to Terrell. Pretty sure she had someone pretend to be a lawyer. That's actually illegal. Forward it to me. 1 p.m., credit monitoring alert. Someone tried applying for a car with my SSN. Called the company, filed police report for identity theft. While on the phone with police, doorbell rings. Process server. I've been served. She actually filed in small claims for $55,000. Boss calls. Did you date someone named Jasmine Williams? She just called claiming to be from the IRS, saying you're under investigation and we need to suspend you. Jesus. I'm sorry, Tom. We broke up and she's not handling it well. No worries. Just document it for HR. 3 p.m. At the police station filing reports for the fake lawyer call and IRS impersonation. Detective trying not to laugh. So your ex is pretending to be a lawyer and the IRS? Apparently. And suing you for a car in your name? Yep. Son, you stuck your dick in crazy. Against better judgment, I answer when Jasmine calls. Baby, wait. The police want me to come in. What did you tell them? The truth. I could get in real trouble. I could lose my job. Should have thought of that before impersonating the IRS. I just wanted you to feel how I feel. I took back what was mine. You took 3 years pretending to love me. Roger, please. Call off the police. I'll drop the lawsuit. Stop contacting me, my job, and my family. Okay. Yes. Thank you, baby. 5 p.m. Email from her actual lawyer saying client wants to resolve without legal action. Terrell drafts response. Your client can drop her frivolous lawsuit and pray the DA doesn't pursue charges. Jasmine's Instagram. Sometimes God removes people to protect you. Standing in my truth, folded hand sparkles. Final update. Detective said they'd have a chat with Jasmine. According to the police report, she showed up with Keisha for support. When they listed potential charges, harassment, identity theft, impersonating federal employee, she claimed I was harassing her. Detective, ma'am, we have recordings. Jasmine, that's not my voice. Detective, the calls came from numbers linked to your friends. Then they played the fake lawyer voicemail. It was Keisha's boyfriend doing his best TV lawyer impression. Keisha went silent. Jasmine was arrested. Harassment, attempted identity theft, impersonating an attorney. Keisha's boyfriend got picked up later. Her mom called crying. She's in jail. She's just a baby. Your baby is 26 and committed multiple crimes. She'll never get a good job. That's kind of the point of consequences. Next day, Jasmine bonded out. Then showed up at my job with flowers and a card saying, I forgive you for everything. Security escorted her out. I get a call from the repo company. They found a box in the trunk with MY documents. Birth certificate, social security card, bank statements, apartment lease. She'd been collecting my personal info. Court date arrives. Her lawyer meets us in the hallway. My client will plead no contest to harassment in exchange for dropping other charges. She'll get probation, community service, restraining order, and drops her civil suit. We agreed. No trial, no continued drama. Done. The hearing was quick. Jasmine said yes in the tiniest voice, no eye contact. Restraining order. No contact for 2 years. Stay 500 feet away. No third-party contact. In the parking lot, her mom says, I hope you're happy. You ruined her life. No, Diana. She ruined her own life. I just stopped letting her ruin mine. It's been 3 weeks. I moved downtown. Credits locked down tight. She tried a card thing twice more before arrest. In therapy, working through trust issues. Last I heard, she's living with parents, working retail after her marketing job fired her post-arrest. BMW long gone to auction. Instagram deleted after someone posted her mugshot. Keisha's boyfriend got 6-month probation. Keisha tells everyone I manipulated the system. Process server came looking for me last week. Jasmine's being sued by the credit card company for fraud attempts. Gave my statement happily. The funniest part? If she'd been normal about the breakup, taken her stuff and left, none of this would have happened. But she had to escalate. Had to prove she could do whatever she wanted. Guess she was wrong. I learned standing up for yourself isn't mean, it's necessary. And there's a big difference between nice and stupid.
At family dinner, my sister mocked me. Where's your husband and kids? Oh, right, you don't have any. My parents laughed, so I said, where's your money? Oh, right, I've been supporting you. Until today. The table went silent, and that was the night everything changed. Hi, my name is Olivia Hart, 31 years old, living in Seattle, Washington, and every day of mine begins like the ringing of a repetitive alarm clock. Waking up in my small apartment in Capitol Hill, drinking black coffee with no sugar, then rushing to catch the morning bus to the tech company where I work as a product manager. I never claimed to live a perfect life, but I am proud that I built a stable path with my own strength. I live below my means, rarely indulge in luxury shopping, and never spend recklessly. Even the apartment I rent is modest, just enough for me to call home. The reason is simple. Most of my paycheck never stays long in my account. It quickly flows toward my family, the black hole I have become so familiar with that I no longer question it. My mother, Evelyn, a retired nurse after an early heart surgery, still needs medications, checkups, and the constant costs that come with them, and I am always the one who pays. My father, Robert, once worked as a consultant, but contracts came and went, and during the lean months, I was the daughter wiring money to keep the suburban Tacoma house from the bank's watchful eye. And then there is Savannah, my younger sister, 28, youthful, beautiful, adored by the family, and also the one I have rescued countless times when she dropped out of school, fell behind on rent, or recklessly maxed out her credit cards. I never thought of myself as the one carrying the weight, but looking back, every scramble and transfer feels like a silent resume clearly stating my role in the family. The safety net. I am not wealthy, only comfortable enough if I did not have to share the burden. A steady salary in tech could allow me to travel, buy a small apartment, or at least save for the future. But I rarely did any of that. The trips I dreamed of, a summer in Italy, a week skiing in Colorado, were always canceled after a frantic phone call from my mother or a panicked message from Savannah. I kept telling myself this was what a daughter, what a sister should do. I silently sacrificed, tucking away my own desires into a locked drawer, and kept sending the money. That is why on that Sunday evening I still drove nearly an hour from Seattle back to the old house in Tacoma. Family dinner, a tradition my mother had kept for years, was usually nothing special. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, sometimes a soup she was proud of. When I walked in, the house looked the same as always, the warm glow of yellow lights, the familiar hint of coffee in the air, and the slow murmur of a football game on the living room TV. Yet beneath that coziness, I could sense another layer, thin but tense, like a violin string pulled too tight, waiting for the lightest touch to snap. Savannah sat at the table, her blonde hair tied high, her bright eyes gleaming with confidence, while my parents murmured quietly to each other. I set my coat on the chair and smiled, though the smile felt strained. Over the years, I had begun to notice an undeniable divide. Me, the daughter who quietly sacrificed, and Savannah, the daughter who was indulged and praised, as if the family's entire light shone only in her direction. I told myself I was not jealous, or at least I tried to, but deep down, the crack widened with every passing day. As I sat down, I listened to my mother talk about her week, about how Savannah had been invited to a fashion event in downtown Seattle, about how my father was still trying to make things work with his occasional consulting jobs. I nodded, added a few polite words. But in my mind, every bill, every transfer, every dollar of my savings swept away like wind kept flashing before me, haunting me like familiar ghosts. That dinner, outwardly warm and ordinary, carried inside it a weight so suffocating I could hardly breathe. Savannah swirled the glass of wine in her hand, the warm dining room light catching her eyes and making them glimmer with something mischievous. I had just lifted a spoonful of soup to my lips when she tilted her head, her mouth curling into that familiar half-smile that had irritated me since we were children. "So sis," Savannah drawled, feigning a gentle kind of concern, "where's your husband? Where are your kids?" "Oh, right. You don't have any." She let out a soft laugh, then casually sipped her wine as if she had just delivered a brilliant joke. My mother immediately joined in with a light laugh, loud enough for me to hear the contempt tucked beneath it. My father gave a quiet snort, his eyes glinting with agreement, while Savannah leaned back in her chair as though she had just scored a point in a game only she cared about. I sat there, the spoon still hovering midair, forcing my face to remain still. In that brief moment, memories crashed over me like a storm. All the times I had set aside my own needs to clean up my family's crises. I remembered the winter night my mother was rushed to the hospital with chest pains, how I missed the most important meeting of my career just to sign insurance papers and put down the surgical deposit. I remembered when my father fell behind on the mortgage and I emptied the savings I had set aside for my dream apartment, even though I myself was crammed into a tiny rental in Seattle with the rent climbing higher every year. I remembered when Savannah called me sobbing after being evicted from her downtown apartment, how I paid off all her debts and found her a new place to live. Every time, I had done it in silence, without complaint, telling myself it was the duty of a daughter, the responsibility of an older sister. And now, what was I given in return? A mocking remark laid bare in front of the whole family, turning my life into the punchline of their joke. Something inside me cracked. It was not an explosion of rage, but a dense, icy silence, like glass splintering into tiny fractures that were bound to shatter soon. I took a deep breath, set my spoon down on the plate, and lifted my gaze directly at Savannah. She was still sitting there, smug, her eyes gleaming with the confidence of someone who believed she had just won. Slowly, I spoke, my voice so calm it surprised even me. I may not have a husband or children, but where's your money? Oh, right, I'm still the one supporting you. Until today. The room fell silent as though someone had flipped a switch and cut the sound. Savannah's smile froze, her eyes flashing with confusion before quickly hardening into anger. My mother set her fork down, the clatter of metal against porcelain slicing through the tense air. My father narrowed his eyes, leaning forward as if unsure he had heard correctly. I felt every pair of eyes fixed on me, but instead of lowering my head like I always had, I held their gaze, steady and unflinching. In that moment, I thought of all the years I had lived like a shadow in this family. I was the good child, the studious one, the early worker, the daughter who never caused trouble. I had grown used to being ignored while the family gushed over Savannah's so-called achievements, from a high school fashion show to the part-time job she quit after only a few weeks. I had grown used to my mother's comparing glance. Other people's daughters are married with children, and you. I had grown used to my father's tone. You may be good at earning money, but don't think you're better than anyone else. All those words, I swallowed them, turning them into fuel to work harder, to send home more money, clinging to the hope that one day I would be acknowledged. But that day never came. And now, with Savannah openly turning my single life into the butt of a joke, with my parents joining in, I knew I had reached my limit. Savannah forced a laugh, trying to regain her air of superiority. Oh, come on, sis. Why so serious? I was just joking. My mother quickly added, you know how your sister is, Olivia. She just teases for fun, don't take it to heart. My father cleared his throat and spoke in his usual commanding tone. That's right, you're taking this too seriously. She's still young. You can't expect her to be responsible like you. Each word landed heavy, echoing in my head like nails being hammered into a coffin. You can't expect her to be responsible like you. That was the sentence they had stamped on me for years. I was the one who had to carry the weight, who had to sacrifice, who had to grow up for the whole family, while Savannah was allowed to fail, to drift carelessly, to mock the very person keeping her afloat. 7 years ago, Savannah decided to quit her university in Portland after only a year and a half. She called me one rainy afternoon, her voice trembling, saying she no longer had money for tuition or housing, that she had missed the payment deadline and the school was holding her records. I remember sitting in my small Seattle apartment, staring at my bank account balance as my chest tightened. That money was what I had saved for 2 years, hoping to buy my very first car. Instead, I wired nearly $12,000 to her school to cover her debts and even added a few hundred more for her living expenses. When my mother asked, I simply said, I've got it covered, and hung up, my heart aching, yet hopeful that Savannah would finally value the sacrifice. But just a few months later, she dropped out entirely, moved back home, and the money I had poured out was gone without a trace. Another time, one summer, I had planned a week-long vacation in California. I had booked plane tickets, found an Airbnb near Santa Monica Beach, and even bought a sea blue maxi dress just for the trip. It was supposed to be the first vacation I took for myself in years. But only 3 days before departure, my mother called in desperation. The old car she used to get to her part-time job had broken down badly, repairs costing nearly $4,000. I looked at the suitcase already packed, the confirmation emails for flights and lodging, and slowly deleted it all. The plane tickets carried cancellation fees, the Airbnb was non-refundable. I wired my mother the money, then returned to the office as if I had never planned to go anywhere. When coworkers asked why I wasn't taking my trip, I forced a thin smile. Change of plans. Inside, my craving to breathe in California's fresh air was crushed, replaced with a dull emptiness that lingered. But the memory that stings the most is tied to this house, the Tacoma home I once thought was a symbol of safety. My father had landed a big consulting contract, but within months the client pulled out, and the deal collapsed. The bank sent overdue mortgage warnings, threatening foreclosure. I remember that night. My mother sat crying in the kitchen, my father silent, saying nothing, while Savannah shut herself away in her room. I quietly opened my laptop, logged into my savings account, where I had funneled every bonus, every extra hour of overtime. I wired over $15,000 to my father to cover the mortgage, saving the house from the bank's grasp. No one asked if I had enough left to live on. No one offered to repay me. They simply sighed in relief and slipped back into their routines, as if my sacrifice was nothing more than expected. When I added it all up, I had spent tens of thousands of dollars over the course of 7 years. That money could have been the seed capital for my dream business, the down payment on a condo in Seattle, or at the very least the trips that would have allowed me to truly live out my youth. Instead, I sent it away without hesitation, lulling myself with the thought that it was my duty. And that very obedience had turned me into an endless supply line, leading to this moment at the dinner table, listening to my sister's mockery and my parents' laughter echoing in agreement. I began to realize the price I had paid was not just financial. I had sacrificed my youth. While my peers traveled the world, pushed themselves into new careers, bought homes, and started families, I buried myself in a loop, working, sending money, extinguishing other people's crises. I had even sacrificed love. At 28, I dated a good man named Daniel, an architect. He wanted to build a future with me, to buy a home together, to have children. But I turned him away because I knew I could not commit to a new life while my family still pulled me backward. I feared that one day, the late-night calls and endless demands for money would shatter my own happiness. So I let Daniel go because I was too busy keeping the family afloat. Oh how! And what about my career? I worked hard, I was capable, but I never dared to leap to bigger companies or chase faster promotions, because I always needed stability to ensure I could help out whenever my parents or Savannah needed. I chose the safe road, the one with fewer risks, but it also meant losing the chance to build something extraordinary. Every single thing I did, every choice I made, revolved around my family, not myself. Sitting there, it became painfully clear. I had traded away my youth, my love, and my career in exchange for something that was never given recognition. And recognition never came. Instead, all I received was mockery. My hand trembled on the table, not from explosive anger, but from a bitter awakening. I had been exploited for far too long, and I was the one who had allowed it to happen. That night, I drove back from Tacoma to Seattle in silence. The I-5 highway was as busy as ever, but the rumble of trucks, the flashing lights, even the blaring horns seemed to slip right past me. Inside, the taunts and laughter of my parents and Savannah replayed endlessly, as though someone were looping a cruel recording. When I reached my small apartment in Capitol Hill, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, listening to the ticking of the wall clock, before slowly opening my laptop. The screen glowed, and in that cold light I logged into my bank account. The number that appeared stunned me. I scrolled down, each transfer, each transaction lining up like a written indictment. $750 for Savannah's tuition, $3,200 for my mother's car repairs, $15,000 to cover my father's mortgage, $1,800 to pay off Savannah's credit card when she was threatened with a lawsuit. On and on it went, dozens of small withdrawals and massive sums strung together. I clicked the filter to view annual summaries. Each year, I had lost at least $10,000 to $12,000 to my family. Over 7 years, the total was more than $80,000. Enough to put a down payment on a condo in Seattle, enough to buy a brand new car, enough to enroll in the MBA program I once dreamed of. Instead, it had all dissolved into emergencies that would never be repaid. I sat still, my hand trembling on the computer mouse. Pain seeped through my body, a suffocating bitterness pressing against my chest. I had sacrificed not only money, but also my youth, my love, and my career, all to serve as the plan B for a family that consumed those sacrifices as if they were owed. Anger surged, but with it came a cold clarity. I could not go on like this anymore. I was not a bank, not an eternal lifeline. I was a human being, and I deserved to live for myself. That night, I opened the transfer app, the one I had used for years to send money to my parents, and slowly pressed the button that said, "Cancel recurring transfer." Such a small action, taking only seconds, yet it felt as though I had shattered chains that had bound me for 7 long years. I sat in silence, watching the screen go dark, and exhaled a long breath. My heart carried worry, even fear of what would come next, but alongside it flickered the faint light of freedom just beginning to glow. 2 days later, the first message arrived. My mother wrote, "Olivia, the mortgage is due soon. Have you sent the money yet?" I read it but didn't reply. Hours later, my father called and left a voicemail. "Olivia, what are you doing? This house needs you. Don't let us suffer." His voice was deep and sharp, echoing with the authority of my childhood, and for the first time in my life, I pressed delete without saving it. Savannah texted too, her tone half scolding, half mocking. "What's wrong with you this time? Stop being dramatic. Mom and Dad are worried. Just send the money, you've got it, don't you?" I stared at the screen, my heart gone cold, then quietly turned off my phone. In the days that followed, the messages poured in like a storm. My mother wrote, "Don't let this small matter tear the family apart." My father wrote, "You're being selfish. This whole family has always relied on you. You have a responsibility." Savannah shifted tactics, moving from scolding to pleading. "I really need you. If you don't help, I'll be evicted." How could you let that happen? I read them all, but I didn't reply. With every silence, I felt another layer of armor forming around my heart, my resolve growing stronger. On Friday night, I came home to my apartment, sat at my desk, and opened an empty notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "No more Plan B." Beneath it, I listed everything I needed to do for myself: save to buy my own home, spend time with real friends, take care of my health, enroll in the MBA program I had postponed. Each line was like a brick laid down to build the foundation of a new life. When I closed the notebook, I heard my heartbeat slow and steady. My parents might grow furious, Savannah might hate me, and I might lose the false peace I had clung to for years. But I knew that if I didn't stop now, I would lose myself forever. And I was no longer willing to pay that price for such ingratitude. A week after I stopped sending money, my phone rang constantly. My mother sent sweet messages, my father left voicemails heavy as hammers, and Savannah switched her tone back and forth, sometimes scolding, sometimes begging. I read, I listened, but I never responded. Then, at the end of the week, my mother sent one short text. "Come home for dinner this Sunday, the family needs to talk." It wasn't an invitation, it was an order. I sat on the sofa, staring at the words glowing on my screen, my chest tightening. Part of me wanted to refuse, to never return to the place that had drained me. But another part urged me to go, to face it once and for all, rather than let the cycle drag on any longer. On Sunday evening, I drove back to Tacoma. The moment I stepped through the weathered wooden door, I could feel the heaviness in the air. The table was set with roast chicken and mashed potatoes, but the once comforting aroma now felt sharp and suffocating. My mother was arranging the silverware, her movements harsher than usual, as if even the plates had to carry her irritation. My father sat at the head of the table, arms crossed, his face cold as stone. Savannah leaned back in her chair with her arms folded, eyes glued to her phone, pretending indifference, though the curve of her lips carried a smug challenge. I pulled out a chair and sat down. No one spoke for several minutes, only the faint clinking of utensils breaking the silence. Then my mother's voice cut through, directed not at me but at the food on her plate. "Olivia, this family cannot function without your contribution. You make good money, helping is only natural. Your father and I sacrificed for you all these years, now it's your turn to give back. What's wrong with that?" I drew in a deep breath. If it had been me a year ago, I might have bitten my tongue, stayed quiet, and later slipped money into their account in secret. But now, after everything that had built up, I was no longer afraid. I looked straight at my mother, and each word I spoke dropped heavy like stone. "That's not helping, that's exploitation." The room froze. Savannah let out a short, mocking laugh, lifting her eyes from her phone, her gaze sharp with scorn. "Oh, please, don't act so righteous. You've got money, but you're still single. I don't understand why you act so high and mighty. If I were you, I'd be embarrassed that no one even wants to marry me." A rush of heat rose in my chest, but I kept my voice steady, calm, without a tremor. "The difference is that I work for my money, while you only know how to spend it. Without me, you would have lost your place to live a long time ago." My mother quickly interjected, her tone urgent. "Olivia, don't speak to your sister that way. She's still young, she hasn't found her footing like you have. You're the older sister, you have to be more forgiving." I turned, my eyes locked on Savannah, but my words were meant for the entire table. Forgiving doesn't mean letting people trample all over me. I'm not a bank, I'm not a bottomless wallet. All these years, I've stayed silent, I've given, and for what? To be mocked as a failure just because I'm not married? Savannah's face flushed red, her mouth opening as if to fire back, but before she could speak, my father slammed his hand against the table. The sharp crack made the silverware tremble. His glare bore into me, his voice a low growl. "Watch your mouth. This is your home, you should know your place. You think you're so great? You only have money because your parents raised you. Don't forget where you came from." I pushed back my chair, the scrape of wood against the floor piercing the silence. My whole body trembled, but my voice was clear and resolute. "If that's the case, then maybe I don't belong in this house. I've kept it standing, but all I've received in return is contempt. If you see me only as a wallet, then I'm sorry, I won't be here to be exploited any longer." The room fell into silence. My mother's mouth hung open, her eyes brimming with tears, as though she couldn't believe the once obedient daughter dared to push back. Savannah stared at me, her lips parting and closing again, unable to find words. My father's face was flushed with rage, but in his eyes I caught a fleeting flicker, a shift that revealed even he knew I was no longer the same Olivia. I walked away from the table, grabbed my coat, and didn't look back. Each step felt like release, like tearing through an invisible chain that had bound me for 7 years. As the door slammed shut behind me, I heard my mother's voice calling after me. "Olivia, come back, we're family." But I didn't stop. For the first time, I let that call fade behind me, softer and softer, until all that remained was the pounding of my heart, the rhythm of a freedom just beginning to take shape. I drove through the night back to Seattle, my chest heavy yet alight. I knew I had severed a crucial tie, and the road ahead would not be easy. But I also knew one thing with certainty. I was no longer my family's plan B. I was no longer the lifeline they could cling to. And from that moment on, I began reclaiming myself. A week after that confrontation, just as I was trying to keep my routine steady in the city, the real storm hit. It was a Friday afternoon when I received a large envelope from the bank delivered to my apartment. At first, I thought it was just another routine account statement, but the moment I tore open the seal, my hands turned cold. Inside was a thick packet of documents, its title printed in bold, Home Equity Line of Credit Agreement. I flipped quickly through the pages, my heart pounding. There it was, my name, Olivia Hart, listed clearly alongside my social security number, my address, and, most shocking of all, a signature. A messy scrawl, clearly an attempt to imitate mine, but I recognized it instantly. It wasn't mine. I stood frozen by the table, as if someone had punched me hard in the stomach. They had done the one thing I feared most but never truly believed they would dare. They had used my identity to borrow money. And not a small amount, nearly $60,000 secured directly against the Tacoma house. I read more carefully and saw the signing date, just 2 weeks earlier, only days after the dinner where I declared I would no longer provide. The world seemed to collapse around me. This was no longer about being disrespected, no longer about cruel words or mocking laughter. This was outright betrayal. I remember sinking into a chair, the packet slipping from my hands, pages scattering across the floor like snow. In my mind, I saw their faces. My father with his stern expression and commanding voice, my mother with her wet eyes and pleading tone I knew too well, Savannah with her mocking smile. They had chosen to cross the final line, treating my signature as nothing more than a formality they could forge to save the house, the same house I had rescued from the bank time and time again. I gathered the pages one by one, my hands trembling. Part of me screamed, "They're my parents, my family, how could they do this?" But another part, colder, answered, "Because they always have. Because for years they have treated me like a bottomless wallet. Because when I finally said no, they chose to break the law rather than look at themselves." The pain wasn't only in the massive debt now hanging over me, it was in the shattering of the fragile trust I had still held onto. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I sat in my dark apartment, the only light the street lamp spilling through the window. The packet lay squarely on the table like evidence of a crime. I picked it up, set it down, picked it up again, questions boiling inside me. How had they gone to the bank? Who had forged my signature? Did the banker know? And above all, had they even thought about the consequences for me? If this loan defaulted, my credit would be ruined, my chance to buy a home destroyed, even my career put at risk. The phone on the table buzzed again and again. A message from my mother. "Olivia, are you okay? Your father and I just managed a little something for the house, don't stress." A message from my father. "The bank has already taken care of it, no need for you to worry. We did this to keep the house." I stared at those words, my chest tightening. Not a single apology. Not a single acknowledgement that they had forged my identity. Only smooth excuses, "We did this for the family." I held my head in my hands as tears spilled out, not just from anger but from the emptiness spreading through my chest. Family, the word I once trusted, had now become the deepest knife. I remembered my childhood, sitting in that Tacoma house, hearing my mother say, "Family is the place you can always trust completely." And now, that very place had turned me into a debtor on paper, with a forged signature. In that moment, I knew there was no going back. This was no longer a quarrel between relatives, no longer just a few cruel words that left me hurt. This was a real crime, a betrayal that could never be justified. I felt something inside me shatter, but along with it came a cold clarity. I had to save myself. I carefully gathered the documents, stacked them neatly in a file folder, and slid it into my desk drawer. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat watching the blinking lights from the building across the street, hollow inside. My small apartment, once familiar, now felt foreign, as if I had stepped into a new world, one where family was no longer a refuge but a lurking danger. I knew from this moment on, everything had changed forever. When the clock struck 3 in the morning, I whispered a single sentence, etching it into my heart: "They betrayed me, and I will never forget." On Monday morning, I pulled out my phone and dialed the bank's hotline. A woman's voice came through the line. "Wells Fargo, how can I help you today?" I tried to stay calm as I explained that my identity had been used to sign for a home equity loan I had never authorized. My voice trembled, but each word was clear and firm. On the other end, the representative listened carefully, occasionally interrupting with verification questions. After I finished, she paused for a moment before saying, "You need to contact our fraud investigation department immediately. And I strongly recommend you consult an attorney because this involves forgery and identity theft. This is a serious matter." I hung up, my hands still shaking. For a moment, it felt as though the weight of the world had grown heavier by tons. Yet a small spark flickered inside me. For the first time, I could actually do something to protect myself, instead of silently enduring. The next morning, I searched online for lawyers in Seattle who specialized in fraud and identity theft. One name appeared repeatedly, alongside glowing reviews. Rachel Nguyen, a Vietnamese-American attorney who had handled numerous cases of families exploiting finances. I pressed call and scheduled an appointment. By Monday afternoon, I was walking into Rachel's office, a neat building near downtown. The space was filled with natural light, a polished wooden desk, and shelves lined with case files. Rachel looked to be in her early 40s, her black hair neatly pinned, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. She shook my hand firmly and gestured for me to sit. I slid the forged documents across the desk. As Rachel flipped through each page, my heartbeat quickened, afraid she might see me as weak or foolish. But when she looked up, her voice was calm and steady. "Olivia, this isn't just wrong. This is a criminal act. Forgery, fraud, identity theft. Your family has crossed the line from borrowing into breaking the law." I sat frozen, my heart jolting at the words, criminal act. Even though I already knew the truth, hearing it declared so clearly made me tremble. Rachel continued, "You have the right to file a fraud report with the bank, the right to demand removal of liability from this loan. And, if necessary, we can take this to court." I bit my lip, my voice raspy. "But they're my parents, and my sister." Rachel tilted her head, her eyes both firm and compassionate. "I understand, but the fact that their family doesn't change the nature of what they've done. Olivia, you have the right to be protected. You cannot keep letting them trample your life and your future just because of the word family." I sat still, my hands clasped tightly together, my mind in turmoil. Part of me wanted to turn away, to stay silent again for the sake of peace. But the image of that forged signature, the $60,000 debt, and the cold tone of my parents justifying it, kept flashing before me. And then I remembered sitting alone by Puget Sound, listening to the waves, realizing I was nothing more than a wallet to them. That feeling cut deep, like a blade twisting inside me. I knew that if I stayed silent this time, I would lose everything, not just money, but myself. I drew a deep breath, lifted my head, and looked straight at Rachel. "I won't stay silent anymore. Please help me." Rachel nodded, her face calm but her eyes lit with conviction. "We'll start immediately. And Olivia, remember this. This time, you are not alone." Leaving Rachel's office, I stepped out into the street, the wind whipping hard against me, but inside I felt clearer than ever. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with confrontation and bitterness. But I also knew that for the first time in years, I was choosing to stand up for myself. And this time, I would see it through to the end. That evening, after meeting with Rachel, I opened my laptop and, for the first time, didn't feel like someone cornered with no way out. I followed each step she had advised, freezing all my credit to prevent anyone from using my identity again, changing every password from emails to bank accounts to small things like Netflix and Amazon. Each time I typed in a new password, it felt like I was building another wall of protection around my life. Then I opened a brand new account at a different bank, one no one in my family knew about, and transferred most of my savings there. The relief of seeing my balance safe in a sealed space was indescribable, like regaining control that had been slipping through my fingers for years. It wasn't just about finances. I began thinking about myself differently. The next morning, instead of lying in bed until the last minute before rushing to the office, I signed up for a yoga class near my apartment. On the first day, my body was stiff, every stretch making sweat bead on my skin, but when I lay down on the mat and heard the instructor whisper, Let go. Tears slipped down my face. For so many years, I had only ever held everything in, never allowing myself to release. Alongside yoga, I started cooking for myself instead of living on takeout. Simple meals, pan-seared chicken, fresh salad, a small glass of wine gave my little apartment the feeling of a real home, not just a stopover for someone exhausted. At work, the change began to show too. I poured my energy into a big project that had been left hanging for months. I stayed late, focused hard, and for the first time in years, I felt true excitement in what I was doing. One afternoon, my boss Matthew walked past my desk, paused, and placed his hand on the report I had just finished. "Excellent work, Olivia. I can see a real change in you." That brief compliment warmed me the entire day. I realized that when I was no longer drained dry by my family, I could shine in my own way. As I worked to rebuild my life, Rachel wasted no time. Just 2 days after our meeting, she sent a formal letter to the bank demanding an investigation into the forged signature. I was CC'd on the email, and when I saw the words "suspected forgery" printed clearly in black and white, I let out a long breath, part fear, part relief. It was no longer just a nightmare circling in my head. It had become a real case, handled in a professional way. At the same time, I started a new habit, keeping every trace of contact from my family. My mother's messages, from the sweet ones, "Honey, this family needs you," to the veiled threats, "Without you, we'll lose everything." My father's voicemails, his voice heavy, sometimes menacing, sometimes pretending to be gentle. Savannah's texts, shifting back and forth, sharp, "You're so selfish," then pleading, "Help me just this one last time, I promise I'll change." I saved them all, neatly organized in a folder labeled "Evidence." Each time I read or listened again, the pain burned, but so did my resolve. They would never again have the chance to deny what they had done. And yet, in the quiet of certain nights, my heart still sank. I remembered family dinners filled with genuine laughter, my mother's warm hugs when I was a child, the way my father once held the bike steady as I learned to ride. But then the image of those forged documents would return, the endless desperate calls echoing in my ears, reminding me that those beautiful memories were part of the past. Family was no longer a safe place. Family had become the very thing I had to defend myself against. Each morning, I put on a new kind of calm. I walked into the office with steadiness, showed up to yoga with patience, and cooked myself dinner as if to remind myself, "Olivia, you are worthy of care too." And every evening, as the evidence folder grew heavier, I knew I was no longer just surviving. I was preparing for the day I would face them not as a walking wallet, but as a woman who knew her own worth. One night, I sat by the window, city lights reflecting off the glass, a cup of hot tea in my hands. I no longer felt the trembling, no longer felt the darkness swallowing me whole. Instead, I felt a patient waiting, a small flame burning steady. I whispered, "This time, they will have to face me. And I will not step back." Rachel and I spent nearly a week pulling the case together. She guided me through gathering every piece of evidence, bank statements, transfer confirmation, emails, even the random receipts I had stuffed into drawers over the years. When the final tally appeared, $84,762 over 7 years, I sat stunned. Nearly $85,000. Not a few hundred, not a few thousand. That was my youth, the vacations I never took, the dates I canceled, the promotions I passed over just to keep everything afloat. Rachel organized it all into a thick binder, each section marked with colored tabs. Payment history, forged loan, Savannah's records. Inside were also Savannah's own defaults, canceled credit cards, overdue student loans, old eviction notices. Looking at those pages, I shivered, as though staring into a mirror that stripped me bare, while at the same time realizing I was ready to hold that mirror up to them. On Sunday, I drove back to Tacoma. The house of my childhood still stood there, with its peeling white fence and creaking wooden porch, but to me, it was no longer a place of safety. I walked in, binder clutched tightly in my hands. The air in the living room was heavy. My mother busied herself shuffling a stack of papers, avoiding my eyes. My father sat in his armchair, his gaze dark. Savannah leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a half-smile playing on her lips, defiant. I set the binder down on the wooden table, the thud landing like a hammer blow. "I'll be direct," I began, my voice so steady it surprised even me. "This is the full record of everything I've paid for this family over the last 7 years. Nearly $85,000. This is the evidence of the forged mortgage loan signed under my name. And these are Savannah's debt records." I flipped each tab, sliding the pages toward them. The three of them sat in silence. My father's brow furrowed as he prepared to speak, but I raised my hand to stop him. "I am no longer this family's lifeline. From today, you have 30 days to remove my name from every loan, especially the home equity loan. If it's not done in 30 days, I will sue. For forgery, financial fraud, and exploitation." I looked each of them in the eye. My mother shrinking back, Savannah paling, my father gripping the arm of his chair. This is not a threat, this is an ultimatum. End of 4. The room was so silent I could hear the clock ticking. Finally, my mother stammered, "Olivia, you can't do this. This is your home." I let out a short, cold laugh, harsher than I thought myself capable of. "No. This is the house I've kept standing with my blood and sweat, but it's not my home anymore, because the people inside it only ever saw me as an ATM." My father slammed his hand on the table. "That's how you speak to your parents?" I stood, pulled the binder back into my arms, and said evenly, "I speak this way because it's the truth. 30 days. I won't repeat myself again." I turned and walked toward the door without looking back. The late Tacoma sky was heavy and gray, but inside I felt clearer than ever. No more trembling, no more guilt. Only the cold serenity of someone who had finally set down a burden carried for far too long. I drove back to Seattle, the wind rushing against the car windows as if it were washing away every wound. 2 weeks later, Rachel called. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the hint of relief. "The bank has finished the investigation. The signature was confirmed as forged. They will remove all legal liability from you." I sat frozen for a few seconds, my eyes stinging. Years of being dismissed, years of sacrifice that meant nothing, and now, at last, justice had taken my side. Rachel continued, "Olivia, you are officially free from that debt. From now on, they will have to carry it themselves." I looked out the window of my apartment, Seattle bathed in a warm golden glow. In that moment, it felt like a chapter had closed. My family might still drown in their spiral of debt and lies, but I would not. I had chosen to stand up, to draw the line, to break free from invisible chains. And most of all, I knew I would never again step into the role of their emergency bank. That night, I opened a bottle of wine, sat on my balcony, and breathed in the crisp October air. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The news that the Tacoma house was up for sale didn't come to me through a call or even a message from my family, but through the public real estate records Rachel had advised me to monitor. The image of the house appeared on the realtor's website, the weathered roof, the familiar wooden steps, but this time stamped with the bold red words, "For sale." A strange wave rose inside me, a mix of sorrow and inevitability, as though I had known this ending was always coming. My parents couldn't refinance. After the forged signature was confirmed, the bank stood firm, and now the debt forced them to sell what I once thought would always be a place to return to. Savannah called me only once, her voice breaking. You really let it come to this? The house is gone. I don't know where to go." I sat in silence, listening to her sobs on the other end. Once, I would have rushed to her side, handed her my bank card, and carried the weight myself. But this time, I only said softly, "Savannah, you have to learn to stand on your own. I can't keep doing it for you." Then I hung up, my chest aching but lighter at the same time. A week later, my mother sent a message. "Sunday dinner. One last meal in the house. Can you come?" I hesitated, then agreed. Not because I felt responsible, but because I needed to see the chapter close with my own eyes. That evening, I drove to Tacoma for the last time. The house felt hollow, stripped of its life. Hallways stacked with cardboard boxes, the living room bare of furniture, only a few faded curtains still hanging loose. The air was so heavy I could hear every clink of spoon against plate. My father sat silently, his hair grayer, his eyes dimmed as though the fire had gone out. My mother laid out a simple meal, nothing elaborate. Savannah said nothing, her eyes rimmed red. Through the entire dinner, hardly anyone spoke. Only after the dishes were cleared did I finally break the silence, my voice steady, without a trace of trembling. I'm not cutting ties. I'm still your daughter, still Savannah's sister. But I'm no longer the lifeline. From now on, if someone falls, they have to learn to stand on their own. My words echoed through the room, leaving all three of them stunned. No one argued, no one pleaded, only silence remained. I rose from my chair and walked into the hallway, my eyes passing over the labeled boxes, kitchen, bedroom, books. So many childhood memories, once bound to duty and obligation, now packed into worn brown cardboard. I opened the door, drew a deep breath of Tacoma's cold night air, then turned back for one last word. I hope you all find a way forward. But I can't live your lives for you anymore. As I stepped down the porch steps, I knew I was leaving behind a piece of my youth. That house had held me in place with the invisible chains of obligation. Now it was gone, and the chains had broken with it. In the weeks that followed, I poured all my energy into work. The project I led exceeded every expectation, and during the quarterly meeting, my boss Matthew publicly said, "Olivia is the reason we achieved this breakthrough." A few months later, I received my promotion to Senior Product Manager. For the first time in my life, my success wasn't overshadowed by desperate calls for money from my family. It was simply mine, earned by my own ability and my own resolve. Outside of work, I began rebuilding my personal life. I joined a Thursday night cooking class where I met new friends, people who didn't care how much money I had or whether I was single or married. They valued sincerity and the stories I shared. I joined a volunteer group at the community center, helping kids learn STEM. Every time I saw their eager faces holding the little robots they had built with their own hands, I felt the true meaning of giving, not through money exploited from me, but through time and heart. I also started caring for myself in small but meaningful ways, jogging around Green Lake on weekend mornings, spending afternoons reading at a cafe, cooking myself a good dinner in the evenings, then calling friends just to laugh and talk. I was no longer haunted by the flood of desperate messages from my family. My phone was quiet now, and that silence was the most beautiful music I had ever known. One December evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, Seattle glowing beneath me, the city lights shimmering on the water like countless stars. I took a sip of wine, breathed in the crisp air, and smiled softly. Not the smile of a victor, but the smile of someone who had finally found herself again. The message rang clearly in my heart, as if written there. Your value does not lie in being everyone else's lifeline. It lies in standing strong on your own, and keeping close only those who truly cherish you. And I knew, from that moment on, that would be the compass guiding my life.